is a presentation of the iRacing eSports Network.
Tonight from the tricky triangle, we get one step closer to naming the 8-car field that will fight for the upcoming 2018 championship. With the playoffs looming now just 3 weeks away, it's an all-new Pocono Raceway on the surface that the drivers will take to. We'll talk about that and more on the ever-evolving championship picture as the night goes on. But as the drivers are trackside at the time when the final warm-up session begins to wind down, as always, we take a step back, look 2 weeks ago from New Hampshire Motor Speedway in this week's iRacing race recap from round number 11. As always, we're happy that you're spending a Tuesday night with us on RaceSpot TV on the iRacing eSports Network. American Ethanol green flag in the air, and we are racing from New Hampshire, race 11, the 2018 clean up front, first time into 1 and 2.
It certainly didn't take long for Ryan Luza to take that top spot. Conti to second. The battle rages on for third. Ryan Schoenberg loves this racetrack, loves this flat surface, and nearly won a couple of races here. He's in third, and there's Nick Ottinger working to the inside of Hurst.
Just before that yellow flag came out, concerned that obviously you get in position, the yellow comes out, and you almost lose your opportunity, but it was a good job of the 5 of Conti right off to the restart, get up and around Luza, and the 6 machine under attack now from Jimmy Mullis, and he really missed quarter exit that time, had to get way out of the gas, and you could see the 27 blow by him on the inside. More of a mistake from the 6 than some sort of magician-like move from Mullis, but it'll put him into the number 2 position, and Ray Alfala smells the blood in the water. It is Shark Week after all. He'll go to the inside. This fight's for third. 27 to Jimmy Mullis right now, currently scored as your race leader has also not come down to the pit lane. So it's not just cars trying to get back to the lead lap that are neglecting some pit service. This is it from New Hampshire. Pace car down for one more time. Mullis getting the door knocked on. He's set sail to turn number 1. Novak going to be uncontested for P2. To the top 2, single file off into the quarter. Alfala trying to get around Vincent for third. He does.
But now Ray Alfala sets his sights on Novak, drives it into the inside line, up off of corner number 2. There'll be single file for the top 3. The 10 of Corey Vincent on the outside. Caution flag is out. That'll end it.
Try some different things on the racetrack, try some different things in the setup. There's still a lot of drivers who don't know their playoff fate, but Jimmy Mullis is going to come off of the final quarter at New Hampshire. He'll become the 7th different winner in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series to win from Loudon. It's Mullis in 2018. The 27 takes home the checkered flag tonight.
Hi, I'm Marcus Richardson, driver of the number 1 Richmond Raceway Toyota Camry, and you're watching iRacing Live.
Oh, that was late.
Hey guys! This week, the 6 on my team are Truex, Logano, Larson, Blaney, Chase, and Suarez. For the rest of you, better luck next week.
She's missing out, dude.
Yeah. The all-new NASCAR Fantasy Live. Visit NASCAR.com/fantasy and build your team today.
The road to $10,000 gets a lot more interesting in just 2 more weeks. But tonight, as we get closer to the start of the playoffs, it's Long Pond, Pennsylvania's Pocono Raceway that plays host to the penultimate race of the regular season, and it is from the RaceSpot TV booth where we say good evening sim racing fans and welcome to round number 12 of the 2018 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing series on the iRacing eSports network. We head into this tricky triangle with the top 8 and therefore your playoff drivers still undecided. And as we welcome you into tonight's coverage, myself, Evan Pocono, alongside with Tim Terry upstairs. Hugo Louise is down in the production trailer bringing us to you this evening. And Tim, it is an all-new Pocono Raceway that we have tonight. This is a track that has been on the calendar since 2011, but a new scan of Pocono to the iRacing service for 2018.
And that previous version has produced 6 different winners in 6 different years, and we might very well see a 7th here this evening. You mentioned that playoff picture, Evan. It's not going to be decided here tonight, but it's definitely going to be shaped here tonight as we have some drivers that are in some dire need of some points before we head to that penultimate round of the final round of the Texas Motor Speedway prior to deciding the playoff picture. You see half of it on your screen. There's some other drivers, Evan, on that second page that really need to step up tonight.
Yeah, and the math is not looking good for the drivers if you're not there in the top 10. The top 8, that's the cutoff you're looking for. So Nick Ottinger in with those 298 points. Logan DeClamp at 9th, not with the 291 points. That's a 7-point difference between fighting for a championship or not, and there is no win and you're in. It's all based on the points that add up over the course of the season. So as we transition to page number 2, Novak, Hurst, Mullis, these drivers need not only to probably knock out top 5s, if not a couple of race wins here and then in 2 weeks' time from Texas, but you are going to need those drivers in front of you to have some issues. Of course, the drivers that you saw at the very top of the championship standings, Tim, no concern for the likes of Alfala, Zelensky, Leahy, Busaluza, those drivers all pretty good, maybe not mathematically locked into with the exception of the top 2, so there is again still anything that could happen in these next 2 weeks, but certainly some drivers far more comfortable than others.
There's also one drop race to factor in as well, but when you look at those top 3, I think those top 3 are pretty safe. Everybody from Busa on back, you're really starting to try to lock in a good finish here and try to make it a little more comfortable heading into the Texas Motor Speedway. But you look at guys like Busa, Luza, Shelton, Conti, you look at Ottinger, Clampett, Christian Chalner, and even back to Novak and Hurst. I think they still have a chance. It's just a matter of controlling your own destiny tonight at this Pocono Raceway. Very tricky racetrack. It can go one of either way. You can have a lot of green flag racing in here, but when you fan out 3, 4, and 5 wide, sometimes that breeds a couple of caution flags if you don't know who you're racing with. So we'll see very quickly what kind of race we're in for, Evan, but it's going to be exciting either way.
And certainly we know, as you mentioned, Pocono can lead to pretty much anybody having an opportunity to go for the race win. It is a very unique racetrack, so if you feel like this kind of plays into your wheelhouse, this is one that's been circled on your calendar. Not only have all 6 prior races at Pocono brought us a different winner, but Tim, also each of the last 7 races, all the way back to Ray Alfala in Richmond, have been different winners. We haven't seen a repeat winner in the last 7 weeks, so things are certainly pretty wide open, it would seem, as this regular season begins to wind down.
And you look at a guy like your pole sitter, that could very well put out another winner, a different winner here this season. So I'm excited to see what happens here over 100 laps. It's a long way to go as these guys get ready to go at this Pocono Raceway.
And we'll introduce you to that starting grid. Let's go trackside and take a look. This is your RaceSpot TV starting grid for round number 12. And that pole sitter is Christian Challoner. The number 78 machine has an opportunity to fight for the race win here tonight from Pocono. He will start from pole position. He's also simply looking for a first career win at this racetrack. He'll be joined on the front row by Ryan Luza, who starts in the number 2 position with Corey Vincent, Keegan Leahy. They're going to tag team up in row 2. That'll be 3rd and 4th starting position respectively. Just behind them, you'll have the 12 Nicholas Shelton, who starts in 5th.
Great qualifying effort by Brad Davies. He lines up in 6th. Ray Alfala 7th. Bobby Zelensky, one of those drivers that's near the top of the championship standings, will roll off 8th. 9th, Derek Bordeaux, and Brian Schoenberg with a top 10 effort.
Just behind him, you'll find Jimmy Mullis rolling off at a number 11 spot. Chris Shearburn joins him in 12th. As well, Michael Guest gets that unlucky to be 13 starting spot tonight. That's going to be the inside of row 7. Outside of that, row 14 belongs to the 74 of Taylor Hurst. And then behind him, it is Nick Ottinger rolling from 15th.
Here's a guy that has to get it done this evening. Logan Clampett will line up in 16th place. Casey Kerwin 17th. Marcus Richardson 18th. Matt Busa in at 19th in that playoff picture as well. And Zach Novak, another driver that needs to get up on the wheel tonight.
We continue down to row number 11. 21st starting spot belongs to Andrew Fayash III. Phil Diaz will start from 22nd. David Rattler, Dylan Duvall 23rd, 24th. And Michael Conti way back in P25.
Colton Davis will roll off in 26th. 27th is Chris Overland. Alex Berger on 28th. Joe Letteriello 29th. And Casey Tucker in the 28th is 30th.
Continuing on through, it is going to be Blake Reynolds starting from 31st position in this one. Ryan Lowe 32nd, Nolan Scott 33rd, Brandon Pipgrass 34th, and Adam Gilliland 35th. That is a look top to bottom at your RaceSpot TV starting grid. One thing you may notice as the drivers pull out onto the racetrack, Tim Terry, there is an absence of Ryan Luza. That car, who qualified in the number 2 position, is electing to start this race from the pit lane. He is not with the field, double up behind the pace car.
Very intriguing. We'll have to watch that throughout the evening as Ryan Luza tries to make his way through the pack, but if he can catch a quick caution, he'll be right back up in the game. Minus that track position as Christian Chalner and Keegan Leahy now occupy your front row.
A tricky 250 miles sit ahead of us as the pace car gets set to dive down to the safety of the pit lane. As always, we're happy that you're spending a Tuesday night with us on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing eSports Network. The field is going to be in the hands of Christian Challenger. He needs a big night. He comes into this 15 points out of a playoff spot as he takes the green flag, and we go racing for round 12 on 2018. Watch him spread them wide down the front straightaway as Challenger unchallenged for the race lead. First time to turn 1.
And Keegan Leahy's going to take second place away. Looks like Corey Vincent in third. The driver on the move, at least at the front here, is Nick Shelton in that 12 to the inside of Bobby Zielinski, and almost look to the inside, and indeed he will, on Brad Davies to try to take away one more position. Shelton on the move, and he's one of those drivers, Evan, that is on the good side of the bubble right now. If he can keep it up in the top 10 throughout the evening, might feel a little bit comfortable heading into Texas.
Yeah, just try to maintain really where your run great qualifying effort has with that position. You see the 13-12 are able to sort that out. First fight on the racetrack right there with the number 2 forward of Ray Alfala. It's a fight for P6 and 7, and Alfala does get in front of Bobby Zielinski, so they do swap those positions, and Alfala goes +1 early in this one. This is a very high-speed track down to turn number 1. You're talking about speed close to 210 miles an hour. The straightaways here at Pocono also very long, over 3,700 feet from turn 3 to 1, and right here on the Long Pond backstretch, that's a 3,000-foot straightaway in its own right. So the draft and having cars in a single file line but not being able to separate from one another going to be a big thing to watch this evening as well.
Taking a look out to Zach Novak. Novak has picked up 4 positions so far as he tries to make his way towards the front of the field, and looking good so far. One of the biggest movers, albeit we're only on a lap number 2. They'll come across the stripe this time by and complete that second lap, and Christian Chalner continues to lead this thing. Keegan Leahy in position number 2 and trying to close in on him a little bit. He's there going down into corner number 1, but not close enough to make the move.
You're not close enough yet to make that move. There's also going to be a point in this race when drivers are going to flip a switch and they're going to start to battle for those positions. As you see the fight for the race lead, a lot less space than we had seen before, and this might be a perfect example. Leahy going to flash the nose to the inside of Challenger, and the 78 machine, you can see him, he rolls out of the throttle there. It's almost a game of chicken in that tunnel turn. Nobody wants to go side by side into there. At any other racetrack, if the 24 machine only had that little bit of a nose there, you're probably not getting that spot, but he had that preferred position down low. Challenger did not want to risk it early on, and he lets the 24 going by. I promise you, the 78's not just going to let him run away with this thing. You can see as he hounds him down the front straightaway, but Leahy does make that move by applying the pressure early and changes off for the race lead on lap 3.
If that was 3 laps to go and not 3 laps in, as you mentioned, I think that would have been a different outcome, but it is still early in the race. You have to get to the end of the race in order to score those points and get those finishes. As we drag race down into corner number 2, the 78 at Challenger continues to get in the slipstream of that number 24 of Keegan Leahy. As you see the speed shot down there, Ray Alfala looking to pick up a position on Nick Shelton as they went through, and I believe Ray Alfala will move that position up and put himself in the top 5 early. But Shelton, as you see here, trying to go to the inside, nothing doing down into 3 as they continue to battle. Bordeaux right behind, having a great run early so far, and there's our winner from 2 weeks ago, Jimmy Mullis, trying to make up a couple of positions as well. He's coming off that high of that first victory and looking for another one here, albeit Loudon's a different animal than what we see here at Pocono.
Yeah, Pocono is certainly a very unique racetrack in its own right. We mentioned that it is a new scan of this Pocono Raceway on the iRacing service, but all of the quirks you know about this racetrack remain the same. And the car into the outside wall, that was the 04 machine. Big hit for Bordeaux as you rode on board with Jimmy Mullis there. The 04 slaps the wall hard, coming out of turn number 1, and it'll create a side-by-side situation now down into the tunnel turn. Not a lot of room for Brian Schoenberg up top in the 04 after getting into the fence, aggressive to get one of those positions back, and it's really packed up this whole group, and a lot of cars squished together. You see the 83 and Zelensky got a roll out of the gas there. That was a big hit though for the 04. Curious how much damage that might have caused as you go a little bit 3 wide as Schoenberg tries to go low. Zelensky beats him to it.
It could have been a lot worse for Bordeaux, but as you see, they're continuing to push and shove a little bit. There's Logan Clampett wanting to get a little bit closer towards the front of the field. When you see those positions so close to you and you think you have a faster race car, it's a little bit easy as a 55 and 04 make contact, 4 in the wall, and there we go. We're going to stack 4 up. Caution flag will fly.
Same spot on track as you see the 04 lock it up. He's in the middle of traffic. They'll split high, they'll split low. And Derek Bordeaux does not get tagged by any of the cars. That's the same spot that he had made that mistake the lap prior, and this time he was on the outside of Brian Schoenberg. The 55 started the push up the racetrack, and there was really nowhere for the 04 to go at that point. He just got squeezed up into the outside wall, and the bad news for obviously Zelensky and Clampett is he comes off of the outside wall. There's really nowhere for those cars to go. It did look like Zelensky and Clampett had made contact before that. I think Zelensky, Tim, saw what was happening and got onto the brakes, and Clampett got into the back of him before they came careening into the 04. But we talked about somebody that needed a good night tonight. That was Logan Clampett, who was only in a position 7 points below the cut line to transfer into the playoffs, and an early wreck is not good news.
It's going to make Texas a little bit harder for Logan Clampett and the Clamp Nation fans to try to stomach and get through. But as I was about to say, when you get everybody so close together, if you're a guy like Logan Clampett and you see those positions and you say, hey, I think I'm a little bit faster than these drivers in front of me, and you try to get by and something like that does happen, you get stuck behind the 8 ball as you see a little bit of damage to the front end of the Richmond Raceway, number 46. Tough break for him, but there's still a long way to go, and I'm sure he'll bring it down pit road here, get some damage fixed to that race car, and there's still 93 laps to go, so I'm sure he's going to salvage whatever that he can, because this is going to be pivotal in this points chase.
You're going to have to stay out there and tough it out. I suppose if there's any point in the race to get some damage, early would be the time to do so. You can get that car fixed up as best as you can. My big concern after we saw the 04 hit the outside wall as hard as he did was how is that going to affect the car, because this is a very aerodynamically sensitive racetrack. So you might be able to get the car fixed up, but Clampett's machine, Zelensky's machine, those things are never going to be back at 100%. It was a short run as we come to crossover from laps 7 to 8, but you can see the pit lane entrance, everybody coming down for service. The question is, do they go the safe call in 4? Do we see some impact drivers gamble with 2?
If you're going to gamble, I think this is the time to definitely do it, because you are early in the race. You still have a lot of laps left to go as the drivers come down to their pit boxes and get service on their race cars. Leahy is in, and Vincent is in, the 78. And as you see on your screen, the only car out there is the pace car as we await those drivers to come off a pit road. And Evan, it looks like for the most part your front runners are taking 4.
It looks like the 4-tire call is going to be the way to go. The 24 leads in, and he will win that race off of the pit lane as well. Keegan Leahy, nice and easy. He goes for the 4-tire call, and there is no exchange of position, at least on the front row. Second off, you see the running order: Challoner, Vincent, then Shelton picks up a few spots, and Mullis slides in there as the 5th car off of the pit lane. But it was certainly a barren front straightaway when everybody came down to the pit lane. Maybe a couple of drivers mid-pack might have been able to sneak in, go for 2. I agree with you, Tim, that if somebody's going to make a call like that, I think this early stage would be the time to do so. But at least at a first glance, looks like that 4 is the overwhelming majority on the decision.
You see a guy like Zach Novak picking up a few positions as well, moving up a little bit further into the top 10, but I think for the most part everybody's been playing it safe right now. Keegan Leahy, Christian Challoner were battling for those top 2 positions prior to that caution flag, and looks like they're going to do it once again when we go back to the green flag. But there's a lot to be decided. These restarts are absolutely phenomenal here at Pocono. You see the drivers fan out 3 and 4 wide, and everybody is so close. You think you can get a couple of positions, and you better do it while you can, while everybody's bunched up on the restart. So when we do go back to green here, this one is going to be pretty intense.
Yeah, it's long and it's so wide that they have the space. As you see us come by the front straightaway now, there's at least 5 lanes of traffic up on the racetrack itself, and if you want to, you could go down into where the checkered pattern is and over the logos. I guess it's part of the racetrack, no double yellow line, so we didn't see that on the first restart of the race, obviously, but as we get later and later and the stakes get higher and higher, certainly you're going to see drivers utilize as much of that asphalt you see for the inside to the outside wall. That's all fair game on a restart and on that run down to quarter number 1. Lights going on top of the base car, so we're going to restart the next time by. Only 9 laps going to be complete of the 100 on the board this evening, so still 91 laps to go. There is a lot still to be decided this evening, Tim. But we talk about this Pocono Raceway, we talk about how unique it is. It's simply a triangle. There's no fancy term like a tri-oval or a quad oval, none of those fancy racing terms that we give to some of these tracks. It's a triangle. Turn 1, 14 degrees, the most banking you'll find on this racetrack, modeled after the Trenton Speedway. Then we go down to turn 2, that tunnel turn that we've already talked a little bit about this evening. That one modeled after the Indianapolis Motor Speedway with 9 degrees of banking, another racetrack that drivers would prefer not to go too wide into a corner at. And then that big, wide, sweeping, and flat turn 3 that is just 6 degrees of banking, that is designed after that of the Milwaukee Mile. That's why this racetrack is so difficult to get around. You got 3 very different corners that drive very differently.
3 different corners, 3 different straightaways, and you got to really try to set up your race car and try to figure out where you're best at and set up your passes. It's a driver's racetrack at the end of the day, Evan, and you got to figure out where you are the best, where you set up your passes, and where's going to be your winning move to get yourself into victory lane.
We'll oftentimes see drivers really focus in on one corner. They set their car up for that corner, and that's where you got to make up your time. We'll see if some drivers start to get better at certain ends of the racetrack than others as the race goes on. But the pace car heads in this time, and we're set to go back. Green flag racing in the 24 wastes no time at all. It's all Keegan Leahy to turn 1, but it is a bottleneck behind for second.
Leahy gets a great start, but that battle for second continues to heat up. Vincent will take position number 2. Challoner moves up on the outside. Are we almost 3 wide? They almost thought about it. Nick Shelton thought about putting the nose in the middle, but he falls back in behind Challoner. Ray Alfalfa now to the inside as he is looking at Jimmy Mullis right ahead of him, and behind them they're 2 by 2 by 2.
And it'll be 2 sets of 2 to the tunnel turn, but that 78 of Challoner trying to hang on the outside. There's not a lot of grip up there. You really want to dive it down into that corner, and it's going to be enough to give the 27 of Mullis back that number 2 position. Challoner did not have a fantastic restart, but it wasn't as atrocious as all of these positions he's dropping might have made you think, but he certainly got going off on the wrong foot. He loses another position. As you see that 2 machine slot up in front of him, I'm sure he'll give Ray Alfalfa a push all the way down to turn 1.
And it's going to allow him to get ahead of Nick Shelton for that position and see what he can do to try to get back by the 2 of Ray Alfalfa. The 12 of Shelton falls in behind, and that last lap or so, you see the 12 of Shelton go low and think you're going to make the move, and then kind of backs out of it, and maybe trying to bait and switch some of these drivers and try to pick up a position or 2. But you look back to Challoner as he challenges Alfalfa. That is now a battle for position number 4. Your top 3 have a little bit of distance between themselves. Closest battle on the racetrack, at least up front, is this one right here.
and they continue to run again in that single file line. That draft is going to ensure that even if they're not side by side, it's certainly a battle, because those drivers are going to be able to stay glued on the bumper of one another. Just look how tightly packed together they are and how close some of those cars cut it up to the outside wall as they come into turn 3 and down the front straightaway. Race leader Keegan Leahy, 209 miles an hour was the fastest he got that time, diving down into turn number 1. You see the gaps, those are your race leaders. Leahy 1, Corey Vincent 2nd, and then Mullis, Alfala 3-4 with Challenger rounding out the top 5 is how your race leaders have shook things out off of the race start. And for at least a split second, single file all the way in the top 10. First fight, you see it there with the 11 machine back in the pack. That's Colton Davis on the inside of the 42 machine of Dylan Duval, and Duval did a very good job of holding top of the outside in turn 2. This fight going to come all the way down to turn 3.
And it's been a while since we've seen Dylan Duval in this series, so great to have him back, but he's battling in the middle of the pack now. As you mentioned, Colton Davis gave him a little shot going down into corner number 3, but he'll maintain that position behind. It looks like Nolan Scott, Joe Letteriello battling for position as they get back to single file racing. Looks like Schoenberg just a little bit ahead of them, spoke the nose to the inside, but other than that, status quo. Everybody's single file, picking up a couple of spots. Shearburn goes high in front of them, but everybody's single file, trying to pick off those quick passes, Evan, and not really disturb a whole lot as they try to make their way towards the front of the field. There's the one of Richardson trying to make something happen on the inside of Shearburn. Shearburn lost a couple of positions, and looks like he's going to stop the bleeding here ahead of the one.
He's going to be able to tuck back in line there as they run pretty much center of the pack in front of them. There's a lot of 2x2. You see that headed on the left-hand side of your screen. The 14 to Casey Kerwin just being able to get on a bye on the inside of the racetrack. He and the 54 kind of formed up a little bit of a freight train, and the 14 wants to go as well. Not the best exit for Michael Guest. Is going to set Casey Kerwin up for P10 as they race all the way down to turn number 1. Even that slightest bit of a better exit as he clears and now dives at the corner. That little bit of a difference pays off on that long straightaway. And with the 54 pinned up top, it's not going to be the only position he loses. The 13 comes on by, and he'll slide right up in front of him and shut the door.
This might be the greatest early run that we've seen so far this season out of Michael Guest. Yes, he's had a couple of top 5 finishes, Evan, but when you look at the 54, we're used to seeing him outside the top 20 or so, and then all of a sudden at the end of the race, he's just there. He's in the top 10, he's in the top 5, but now he's got a great qualifying effort and starting up front and knocking on the door of the top 10 as he battles with Michael Conti and the 1 and Marcus Richardson. Phil Diaz behind them having a great run as well, and there's Brad Davies and Casey Kerwin continuing to go at it. So give a call out to Michael Guest early in this race as he runs near the top 10 as we work lap number 15 of Pocono Raceway.
And about match now the green flag distance that we went on that very short first run before we saw an incident at a quarter number 1 that brought out the one and only caution flag thus far in this race. 85 laps to go on the board. The next time by, you ride on board with Joe Letteriello right now, scored in 21st, and it might not show up as much as if it was a driver up inside of the top 10, top 15 making some of the moves, but Letteriello's had a very good night as well, as he now has the 6th car on his left-hand side. You also have the live look-in on board with the driver of the 57 machine. He's made up 8 spots, and of course, as soon as I bring that up, he loses 2 of them. The 6 Aluza gets on by, and that 77 Fayash in a very good position to challenge him off of the corner. But Letteriello looks like he'll pull the defensive run off and at least hang on to one of them. Still 7 spots, therefore, in front of where he began.
And continues to work. The 77 will fall back in behind for the time being, but you look at how close everybody is. You saw the closing rate on the 11 in front, the 6 of Ryan Luza now going by, and now Joe Letteriello will close back in on Colton Davis and see what he can do to try to pick up that position. Looked like he was trying to set him up prior to Luza going for that position as they continue to run a single file. It's still status quo up in front. Nothing's changed. Keegan Leahy's got a 7/10 of a second lead. This battle in the middle of the pack is pretty much where it is, and there's that 7/10 of a second lead. Keegan Leahy's pretty much checked out on the rest of this field, and everybody pretty much equal distance into the top 10 or so. Nobody really poking their nose out and putting on a battle at this point. Content to ride here as we'll complete lap number 16.
You see Keegan Leahy now with the biggest race advantage he's had thus far, now nearly a second. You see the live tracker there in the center of your screen, just now cracking a 1 second advantage back to Corey Vincent. Vincent, I think, sliding back a little bit more than he would like at this moment. I had been watching Christian Challenger, and you see the 78 machine. He's the 3rd car in that second group there, tailing the 27 to Mullis. Well, he had just gotten around the likes of Alfala and some of those other cars off for the restart a handful of laps ago, and there was a noticeable gap from the 78 to the 27 Mullis. As you're right on board with him, the gap is not that big anymore, just about a car length. So he's done a good job of catching Mullis, while at the same time, Mullis did a very good job at catching Corey Vincent. So I think it's very much a three-way battle right now for the number 2 spot. The question is, who makes a move first?
They'll come up out of the corner. The 27 of Mullis sucks right up tight to the 78 and goes to the inside, or at least pokes the nose on the inside, and that's the 10 of Corey Vincent as they dive it down into corner number 1. This time I don't think he's going to be close enough to make the move, but he drives it in deep, does Mullis, and Vincent lets him have the position and just slides right in front of the 78. Does he try a crossover move here out of corner number 1? Thought about it, got a little bit sideways, and pulls back in behind the 27 of Mullis as he'll slipstream down the back into corner number 2. But Jimmy Mullis drove it in deep down into corner number 1, and that's what you have to do. He picked up the position, and now he'll try to set his sights on closing that huge gap right now on Keegan Leahy. But Vincent has other plans. He looks to the inside, or at least did down the short straightaway, and Jimmy Mullis drives it in deep again into 3.
It was about as good of a pass as you could expect. If you're that 27 to Jimmy Mullis, you show the nose, you get a little bit of position, and that driver gives you the space. But we certainly saw the 10 of Vincent go for the crossover this time by Mullis, therefore takes over second, and Vincent falls back down to where he started in third as we ride on board with him. Tried to cross him over, looked like he had the speed, but as you mentioned, Tim, just a little bit sideways off of the quarter as he kept that right foot in. It prevented him from being able to get back to him. These drivers very aware that if you get even a little bit of space on the inside of somebody, you probably got the spot. And I don't think Corey Vincent necessarily let the 27 go with this grand scheme of crossing him over, and he was very stingent on not letting P2 go. I think it was a combination of he's faster than me, I don't want to go into the corner side by side, but if I can get to his inside and force him to let me go like I just did with him, it's not going to be an issue though. The 10 I think is going to have his hands full. The 70 at a Challenger got really deep in the corner number 3. He was just about to set up a move, and he's going to lose a couple of car lengths, so he'll have to try to reset and go for it again. But he went very hard into turn 3, almost got Vincent in the right rear.
The wrong place, wrong time for that move, and the 78 I think was anticipating trying to get up there in battle, but as you saw, it just falls back a little bit there, and could have been a lot bigger than it was, could have had a bigger collision and what have you, but these guys are the pros. They continue to go at it, and the 78 will try to close back in on the 10 of Corey Vincent. There's that big gap back to position number 2 as everybody, for the most part, you look down the straightaway, single file, a couple of drivers trying to maybe poke the nose to the inside and try to pick up a position, but as they go by the speed shot, every single one of them, single file right now, trying to log some laps.
And I think that's the objective for these drivers as well. Nobody likes pacing around the 2.5 miles. That is the Pocono Raceway. So they would certainly like to be able to get to the at least the second half of this race. Obviously, get through some green flag pit stops, gives the drivers from 5th to 15th position an opportunity to use some of that strategy to make a difference, kind of get yourself that little bit extra. But you see that single file line, I don't think you could find any battle for position until we get back here at the way end. You see the likes of Logan Clampett and some of those other damaged race cars. I don't think you're going to find a group of cars any more than maybe 4 or 5 car lengths apart. You do have those pockets here and there, and that is the draft, keeping everybody nice and cozy. Ride on board with the driver scored in the number 7 spot. That's Nick Shelton. Ray Alfala right in front of him in the number 6 spot. But the big mover in all of this is one more car forward in line. That 15 machine of Zach Novak started 20th. He's P5, and that makes him your biggest mover early on.
And we came in talking about this points picture, and Zach Novak is one of those drivers that's on the outside looking in. He sits in position number 11 right now, and when you look before the drop, there's 19 points between himself and the bubble driver Nick Ottinger, but there's so many moving parts in that points battle as Novak goes up the racetrack a little bit here and sees that little battle in front of him between the 78 of Challenger, the 10 of Corey Vincent. They'll swap that position for the time being, but there's so many moving parts in this points championship battle, or at least to try to get in to the playoffs, that Zach Novak cannot control his destiny, or cannot control the destiny of guys like Shelton, Conti, Ottinger, Ryan Lewis, and Matt Boosa for that point on the good side of the bubble, or Logan Clamp, Christian Challenger, but he can control his own destiny, and the only way to do that, Evan, is to run up front like he's doing and do what he can to collect maximum points. Right now in 5th, and a part of this battle right in front of him here that winds all the way up to position number 2.
It continues to go on. Challenger and the number 78 machine eventually able to get to that number 3 position. So Corey Vincent now behind him, also trying to come on the counter attack. But with Vincent seeing the 15 get bigger and bigger in the rearview mirror, the 10 needs to figure something out. He can't just keep dropping positions. Actually takes a step out to the inside, and it's going to allow the 15 to Novak to come up on the outside of the racetrack. Normally when you're attacking, you're down low, not up top. So who backs out of this one? In the charge to turn 2, neither of them. And the 15, by the time they got to the center, said, all right, you win this one. And the 10 slides on by on the inside of the racetrack. Just wanted to note as well, we took a look just a moment ago on the left-hand side of your screen, the intervals, how many positions drivers have made up, how many positions drivers have gone down. It's a good look at who started where, who runs where, all with the exception of Ryan Luza. Again, that stat will show you negative 15 because he qualified in second. But if you remember, if you're just tuning in, Ryan Luza started this race from pit lane, did not join the field for the drop of the green flag, so he didn't really start second. He kind of started way back in 35th, so he's already clawed his way up to P15, more than halfway through to the front.
And we set off the hop. If he can get a quick caution and get everybody bunched up, he'll have the opportunity to come through the field, and it looks like he's done that so far, and still has a little ways to go. But keep in mind, we're going to cross in another lap and a half or so the quarter distance mark of this race, so we still have a lot of laps to go here, and a lot of time for Ryan Luza to make up a little bit of time as you look back from the 74 of Hurst back to Shearburn. There's the 1 of Marcus Richardson in the battle as well. Nice little battle here.
It's a good little battle that you're keeping an eye on, and at any moment, 2 cars behind them could go side by side. A couple of cars in front of them could go as well, as you see that number 1 machine actually go down to the inside, try to take that line away. So the attacking Taylor Hurst is on the outside of the racetrack. He'll get the spot, and the 36 wants to come as well. Chris Shearburn tried to sneak in there before Richardson could step back up in line, and the one kind of abruptly darted back up the hill, so Shearburn went a little bit wider in the corner than he would have liked, and he's not going to be able to get that position. In front of them, a fight now with the 14 to Casey Kerwin. He makes a move to the inside of Schoenberg to the tunnel turn. Both of them hold true. The 55 better run off as he scrapes the wall and showers some sparks on the cars behind him. Now here comes Hurst. Like I said, side-by-side fight here. Could easily shuffle up into a handful of positions up for grabs in a blink of an eye.
That 74 car has been quick on the longer run here this evening and picks up a couple of positions, and it almost looks like the last lap or so a switch was flipped, and it's almost like some of these drivers have got to that point in the run where the cars get a little bit free. They start to skate a little bit more. Saw Brad Davies a couple laps ago to turn 2 get a little bit sideways and fall back a little bit off this battle. He's still in touch with this battle back there with Luzes. The 74 comes off the corner and goes down to the inside a little bit. Looks like some of these drivers are starting to get these cars a little bit out of shape, and it's making an interesting battle for some of these drivers as they try to stick handle the race cars.
Yeah, the 55 is where all of that started. He got loose coming off of the corner there, and then everybody all wanted to be the person to pick up the positions. They were 4 wide at one moment, down into the corner. Schoenberg wanted nothing to do with that, so he backs off. That's why the 55 ends up losing a lot of positions in that, because he was not willing to play the game everybody else was into the tunnel turn, and you'll even see him that time off of the corner. He'll drop to the back, and he's maybe not feeling the kind of action that these guys are racing with just 27 laps into this race. But Tim, as you noted, passing quarter distance in this race. This portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Peak Antifreeze and Coolant, the official antifreeze of NASCAR and proud title sponsor of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing series. As we close in now, nearly 20 laps into a green flag run, and about halfway through what you can do on a fuel run.
And you see some of these drivers trying to get to that first pit stop per se and try to make those adjustments. And as you saw Brian Schoenberg fall back from this battle a little bit, you see the 16 and Nolan Scott now pressuring Blake Reynolds in the 66. You see some of those pockets of racing, and then you saw some other guys like Brian Schoenberg just, kind of forecast what's ahead of them and fall back a little bit and try to not get in that battle. You saw that conga line right there with Schoenberg at the end. I think he saw something that was starting to brew and maybe tried to protect his race car per se, as he is comfortable right now by the looks of it, riding along with Brad Davies.
finally in a comfortable position. Race leader just went around Derek Bordeaux. He drops down another lap. Bordeaux is down 7 laps, but on track. Adam Gilliland is actually out of this race in the 8 car, so Bordeaux's going to pass him, and you will see Bordeaux become the 34th placed car on the racetrack with Gilliland's DNF. So other than that, though, there's 33 cars still racing, and all of them are on the lead lap, with the exception of Bordeaux. And the amount of spacing you're seeing now between your race leaders certainly not as severe as it was before, so we don't expect that to be a huge issue for your race leaders as they try to work around the lap traffic. You can just see how visibly damaged that 04 of Bordeaux is after he got into the outside wall on one occasion and then got into it again, and that was the one and only incident that we have seen thus far. Watching the fight now for second position, though, as Keegan Leahy really takes off. He's now over 2.5 seconds in front of the group here between Mullis and Challoner. 78, you take a look off of the back end of the 27 of Mullis, and you see Challoner as he dives it down into the corner. Kind of interesting to see the different lines these drivers are taking. Maybe trying to flash it out to get a little bit of more clean air, trying to get out of the wake of that car in front of them to get a little bit more air, and then downforce to the front end of that race car. You see the 78 lower, down in 3. He did the same thing last time in turn 1 as well.
27 of Mullis will come off the corner, though, with that battle. You'll look at the 78 car. Challoner looks to the inside down the front straightaway to try to see if he can't take it away down into corner number 1. We've seen Mullis drive it in deep into turn 1. He won't do so on the outside, but he'll have that momentum, a little bit sideways, a little bit of a bobble. The 78 will capitalize, come up out of the corner. The 27, though, will still have that nose there, and the 78 car will make that move. He'll move up to position number 2, and Jimmy Mullis, man, he put up a fight on that outside line, but he'll fall back to position number 2, and maybe one more. Here comes the 10 of Corey Vincent. Vincent trying to capitalize as well.
And Mullis not afraid of hanging in there up at the outside, and it's going to work that time as he keeps Vincent pinned to his inside. It's side by side for 3rd and 4th position. And it looks like that 27 may just mount a successful defense. He needs to run off of the corner. The 10 bobbles. And yes, he will. Great driving by Jimmy Mullis. Despite the fact that he loses a position that lap, he only falls to 3rd. And you can see on that camera shot as they came into turn 1, the 27 was still on the outside of Challoner, and the car started to brake sideways, and it was a wise decision at that juncture for Mullis to say, all right, you got me this time, roll out of the throttle, or things could have got pretty interesting to say on that part of the racetrack. It is interesting, Tim, that we see how loose handling these race cars are, and we kind of broke down how the quarters are here at this Pocono Raceway. 14 degrees in 1, 8 degrees in 2, and 6 degrees in 3. One would expect that the corner of the racetrack, I should say, that has the most banking would be where you have the most grip, but it seems like that exit at turn 1 has been the calamity corner thus far.
Seen a lot of drivers get a little bit free off that corner, but we've seen these drivers try to set up, and you can even see the wheel moving a little bit there on the 10 of Corey Vincent as he tries to chase down a Mullis and the rest up front. But you look at that battle, Christian Challoner, once he got by Jimmy Mullis, he's been able to clear and gap that number 27 a little bit. You see him there in that shot, but those 3 were close for how many laps? 10 laps or so they were going at it for that position, and once the 78 of Challoner popped the cork on the 27, he pulls away a little bit. It's about a half second or so back to the 27 of Mullis, who has that advantage on the 10 of Vincent, and not too far off that shot. That number 15 is Zach Novak's kind of creeping back there. He's not within striking distance yet, but he's trying to make his way up to that battle for what would be position number 3, and Alfala Shelton not too far behind him.
I just continue to be impressed by the amount of distance that Keegan Leahy is pulling. There's really no advantage if you're the driver of the 24 right now to be pushing that race car on the absolute edge. If you've got 3.3 seconds to work with, use those 3.3 seconds, but he's about a 10.5 faster every single time around, which bodes well for the 24 machine, obviously. If he'd be able to find a race win here tonight, obviously he'd help his case as he enters 3rd in the championship, and not really in a concerning situation as far as not making the cut line. I think we're pretty certainly he's going to be in the playoffs and should be a favorite, I would argue, headed into the playoffs this year. But if you could pull one out tonight, it would be his 3rd on the season. It would tie Luza for the most out of any drivers thus far on 2018. I know it's early. I know we're only at lap 33 or 100, but that 24 is gone. There is nobody remotely close to him as you see Challoner come in some 4 seconds or so behind him.
we've seen some of these races come down to late race dashes, some cautions at the end. But on the other side of it too, if this race, let's say, does go green from here on in, you continue to build your lead, and maybe you have a pit stop miscue, or maybe you miss it a little bit coming onto pit road, you at least have a little bit of a buffer room. But right now, Keegan Leahy doing what he has to do up in front, and you see this battle behind. They're left to battle for position number 2 on back, and even position number 3 right now as Chalner continues to inch away a little bit from Jimmy Mullis and the 10 of Corey Vincent, who you see on your screen right now, and Zach Novak not too far behind. Ray Alfala's there, Shelton's there as well. So there's drivers that are battling for positions, but it's all behind Keegan Leahy in that 24 right now. Dominant performance so far through the first 34 laps, but we still got 2/3 of the race to go.
And the interesting thing is you continue to see him just pull away towards the front of the field. I checked the lap times the last time by. What a jump for Keegan Leahy, who this time by will get an updated number, a 54.486 for your race leader and a 54.688 for Challenger. So that's at 1.5 to 0.2 of a second, a split between first and second. But Keegan Leahy was not the fastest car on the racetrack. In fact, he is 0.2 of a second in his own right slower than another race car. And that's the 6 of Ryan Luza. Again, continuing to come from the back of the pack. He's up to P9, and he's about to fight with the 05 at Gottinger. You watch these two cars as they race down the Long Pond straightaway and down to quarter number 2. Luza, fastest car on the racetrack. The thing that hurts him, obviously, is after qualifying P2, started for the pit lane, had to go back to the front, but it's never stopped somebody like a Kyle Busch from going for a race win, and Ottinger doesn't even want to bother with it. Goes to the left-hand side, rolls out of the gas, and gives it up. The 6 car now up to P8.
And he continues to work up, but keep in mind, this battle is over 7 seconds behind Keegan Leahy. When you look at those last laps, a couple laps ago, you mentioned Keegan Leahy was up in the 54.4s and now a 54.35 that last lap by. Been watching that battle with Jimmy Mullis and Corey Vincent. Yes, they've been falling off, but not too much compared to some of the others in the field. Last lap by for Mullis was a 54.49. Last lap by for Corey Vincent, a little bit slower at 54.53. Yes, they are slower than your leader, but Jimmy Mullis the last couple laps has been within a tenth or a half-tenth or so of Keegan Leahy, but just like the battle that we talked about with Ryan Luza, that's 4.5 seconds or so behind your leader, Keegan Leahy. So he's been able to put up some time in between, as you see Nick Ottinger just on the end of your screen, and Taylor Hurst. Talked about Hurst being fast on the longer run, and he continues to show it. Maybe not as fast as Ryan Luza, but he's still making up positions and following along. It's almost like there's a tow rope between the 6 and the 74.
And you don't necessarily have to be somebody like Alusa, who now up into the number 7 position has effectively passed 28 cars to get to where he runs right now from the start of this race. But I think that as well, that 74 of Hurst is doing exactly what he needs to do. You look out the front end of Ottinger, and you can see that he's keeping Hurst relatively close. But Taylor Hurst started 14th, and he runs in 9th. That is a great pickup for a green flag run in the first half of this race. You want to get yourself into a position to when you get to that midway point, and of course, from that point on to the end of this race, in the top 10, you get a caution flag. Not only can you benefit from restarts, a good pit stop here could grab you a spot or two. So I think certainly he's doing exactly what he needs to do. Somebody like Jimmy Mullis, obviously, who's gone 11th to 2nd. Zach Novak, who's gone 20th to 4th. All of these drivers, great pickups, and somebody who might be a little bit further behind, the 5 of Michael Conti. Tim started 25th, he runs in 14th, and I think we see the first couple of cars headed down to the pit lane. Green flag service led by Casey Kerwin. Somebody else down on the pit lane in front of him as well.
Yeah, that's Chris Shearburn in the 36 car. Will head down onto pit road, so this will pop the cork on a green flag pit stops in the first round of green flag pit stops. As I think the 2 of Ray Alfala nearly had a moment there off the corner. Indeed, he did. He's on the apron. He's going to let the 12 of Shelton go by on the outside, but Ray Alfala nearly bought the farm that last time by, and now here comes Ryan Luza to the inside. A rare mistake from the BRS number 2 driver. Ray Alfala falls back 1, and he's probably going to fall back 1 here as Luza has a run.
He's got a pretty good run. It's going to be hard to defend on that one, and you can see Alfala, though, get back to the gas off of the corner and do a good job of at least making it as difficult possible for the 6 as you can. And take a look to the inside. They'll race down the front straightaway to turn 1. He's got a nose, and That'll pretty much do it. I don't think Ray really wants to jeopardize going in there 2x2. He takes a little bit of a wider arc. Some drivers just back out of the gas tuck in line. You can see Ray went into the corner, just entered a little bit higher so he can diamond off and basically exit the corner right on the bumper of that 6 machine. So he gives up the most minimal amount of time as possible. It's very easy to just pull over and let one guy go for a position, but you keep in mind you're giving up time to the cars behind you. So Ray Alfalla very methodical in how he executed that one.
Up in front, it's now Christian Chalner that's leading. I believe Keegan Leahy may have gone down pit road. We saw Nick Ottinger a couple laps ago head down pit road as well. So green flag pit stops definitely in at the mix here as you see Keegan Leahy on your screen. Chalner, Mullis, and Vincent, your top 3 on the scoring pylon as cars continue to come down pit road. There's a couple that are making their way down now. There's the 5 of Michael Conti on your screen and also the 2 of Ray Alfalla. I think that little slip there a couple laps ago may have shown the time for Ray Alfalla to come down and maybe get a couple of adjustments made for what is going to set up to be, I'm sure, another run here.
And it's probably not going to end this way, but just for the sake of letting you know what the drivers are thinking on the strategy for the time being, they're currently working lap number 40 of 100 in this race. Even the drivers who have trickled down to the pit lane in the last couple of laps, you're able to go those 60 or 62 or so laps with 1 stop on fuel. And you can't go there on 1 tank, but at this point, drivers are going to come down. And if we were to stay green, that's the questionable part about a track like Pocono. Certainly you can spread out and see that as Luza heads down to the pit lane. The 12 machinist Shelton also down. Hurst on pit road as well. So a lot more drivers coming in. But this sets these drivers up for 1 stop here at about lap 40 and 1 stop later on in the race, right at about lap 70, to be able to make it to the end of this race. Again, that's if we stay green. Nothing guarantees it, but certainly that's what you have to plan on as Keegan Leahy drives by on the front straightaway and continues to make up that ground now as he runs mid-pack.
And he's about 27 seconds or so behind your leader, Christian Chalner, who now comes out of the final corner. And that's the 2nd consecutive lap that Chalner flirted with the wall off turn 3, or check that turn 2. He's been getting every piece of real estate that he can out of this number 78 car as you see the 47 of Overlay make the pass. And looks like he'll come down to pit road this time by. So Chalner will surrender the lead. He'll surrender it not to Mullis, because Mullis will come down pit road as well. It'll be Corey Vincent that stays out on the racetrack and battles with the traffic on the track. And looking back here to a couple of drivers, Dylan Duval making his way down onto pit road as well. So expect to see Keegan Leahy cycle his way back up through as pit road is now very busy, about a dozen cars or so on pit road.
The benefit to a big racetrack like this is when you pit, you don't lose your lead lap status. So I really like the call that Keegan Leahy has made as he's able to get all the way just like that back up into the number 2 position. There's nobody else anywhere near him at many racetracks. Is Corey Vincent, I think, the lone driver that still continues to stay out at least a bunch of race leaders. At a lot of racetracks, if you're towards the front of the field, you like to go for that short pit. You want to get the fresh tires and you want to get on some quick lap times ASAP. The problem is you fall off for the lead lap as you see Vincent finally come down to the pit lane. Took him to lap 42, but he is now in. And when you lose that lead lap status, if a yellow comes out, you're in a very bad spot. You'd have to pass up the opportunity to pit to get back to the lead lap. You'd be at the tail end of the lead lap with no tires, and it is a headache. So the good news here is that's not a factor Leahy had to deal with. I liked his call. You come in, you get your tires, and I think the gap for the race lead is you see nobody behind him for the longest amount of time. That's going to work out very well for the 24 car.
Leahy will go back up to the top of the board, and I'm surprised we don't see more drivers trying to stay out and try to do some sort of fuel strategy, because we're typically seeing it at some of those racetracks that do produce green flag runs, especially those at the back that might not have the opportunity, we might not talk about all night long, but they'll try to get up there with a little bit of strategy at the end to try to capitalize on at least a top 5 or a top 10 finish as Ray Alfalla makes a move on Nick Ottinger to go by and pick up a position, try to get himself a little bit closer towards the front of the field and get himself a little bit closer to Keegan Leahy, and that would be the battle right now behind the 24 car for position. So Ray Alfalla right now position number 2 as they'll work around this time, and Keegan Leahy should hop back up to the top of the leaderboard.
He's going to be able to cycle back to the race lead this time by. Corey Vincent was still scored as your race leader last time around as he came down to the pit lane from that number 1 position. You see that battle for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and you're everybody else cycle now off the quarter, but it'll also give us, for the first time, a look at what that interval is going to be between Alfala and Leahy. It is 10.5 seconds between first and second as we watch a little bit of 3-wide action down into the corner. It's Hurst on the inside, Mullis in the middle, and the 11 car slow in the center of the corner, and no mercy for Colton Davis as they all stay in it. The 13 flirts with some 4 wide. This going on mid-pack, but you'd think it's a battle for the race lead.
And this is a battle for position as well. They're all on the same lap. They're all going for a top 10 position right now. We're just outside the top 10. Looks like Novak will be a part of this battle as well as they went 3 wide, now back to 2x2, and the 15 going to join the fray as well. Exciting little battle here in turn number 3 as all these drivers fight for the same piece of real estate off the final corner, down the straightaway. Hurst is going to take the position, and as you mentioned, Colton Davis was 3 wide in the middle, didn't pull his foot out of it, and for reason you see now, he's battling with Brad Davies, and right now those two are putting on a show.
He has certainly put it on a show. The 11 was the one getting caught up to, and you see the 15 now dart to the inside. Eventually, that trio is going to be able to get around Colton Davis, but really in a difficult position where he couldn't do much by lifting it because he had a car behind him, a car on his left-hand side, a car on the right-hand side, and as those drivers, you might have maybe considered backing off and giving the 11 machine a break, but kudos to those drivers. They were able to keep it in it, and that point with 3 wide off the quarter at Pocono, where many drivers have struggled tonight just keeping their own car out of the outside wall. That battle will now bypass the 11 as you see Davis fall off, and the 3-way fight continues, and they go up and harass the next car in line as they'll continue to fight with each other while at the same time making up some time in the cars in front of them.
Intriguing little battle here. Jimmy Mullis was one of those drivers within the top 5 or so. We're flirting with it, as well as the 15 of Zach Novak, but we see that little difference in between those drivers when they came down pit road or decided to peel off for service. For example, a guy like Christian Chalner was outside the top 5 a couple laps ago, and now he's found himself up to position number 3. There he is there, just past Ottinger the last lap, a little up against the wall. Ryan Luzin just behind him as well, making up some time, but Ray Alfala is the second place driver right now, but he I'm sure is going to be challenged in a couple laps here by that number 78 at Chalner, because that car is on the move, but between him and the leader is still 10 seconds. You see the damaged vehicles. That Bobby Zielinski ahead of the 2 of Ray Alfala. There's a little bit of damage to that race car as well, and there's a driver that's a little comfortable up in front with the point standing, so can afford to lose some points, Evan, but doesn't want to lose a whole lot coming into that final race before the cutoff of Texas.
And I want to remind you, as the season goes on, all the races in this NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing series going to be right here on the iRacing eSports Network, so make sure you subscribe, make sure you got the notification bell on it so you can catch us next time out at Texas, and then, of course, all the way through the playoffs and the end of this 2018 season. Fights aplenty on the racetrack. The cars that you're seeing make up time now with the cars that pitted later than the cars who pitted earlier. Obviously, you got your fresh tires after they did, so you lost time, but you currently have better tires on the racetrack. That's why that gap that was 10.5 seconds between first and second is down to a dismal 9.2 and now 9. Now, Alfala's advantage is slowly going to fade away, and I still think Keegan Leahy is going to have ended up adding on to the interval that he had between first and second. I mean, he decided to make that short pit call, but that's why you see this phenomenon after a cycle of green flag pit stops, where all of a sudden it seems like these cars found speed out of nowhere. It's really just things kind of righting the wrongs, if you will. Some drivers go for the short pit, try to get some track position. The longer you go into the following run, the further away that will slip. But in the green flag stretch, it's nearly gone 40 laps to this point, only 2 laps away for the halfway point here at Pocono.
And you look at the little freight train that's starting to build behind as they put a lap on Derek Bordeaux, and the 04 car continues to make his way around here to try to pick up what he can. But look at that little freight train right behind there. It's kind of disbanded a little bit, but Schoenberg in the 55, I believe that is, or that might be Conti in the 5 car. Indeed, it is Conti in the 5. The 74 Taylor Hurst to the upside. The 27 of Mullis continues to be in the battle. And Zach Novak really hasn't been able to pop the cork, per se, on this battle, but he continues to methodically work his way to the front of the field. You saw on the side of your screen there the 12 of Shelton tried to make a move in the 05 of Ottinger. As the green flag pit stops happen, it's kind of shaken up the lineup a little bit, and some of these drivers that were a little bit quicker earlier prior to that green flag run are now trying to make their way back up to the front. Hello, Zach Novak goes to the inside of the 5 of Conti, and the 27 of Mullis going to follow through. So the forefront number 5 going to fall back 2 positions here, and looks like the 27 of Mullis has the coupon book out. He's going to try to take 2 for 1 in this lap.
Amazes me how hard these guys just continue to push it all the way through the course of a 30 or so lap fuel run. 2 cars in that group you saw in that overhead shot got up against the outside wall coming out of the tunnel turn, and yet they act like nothing's wrong as they, shoot some sparks off as they brush up against the fence. Nobody's really hitting the wall. They're not really getting any damage from it, but you want to talk about using every little bit of real estate you can. Perfect example in this little bit of a mid-pack angle. Look in front of them, the 14 to Casey Kerwin, the 36 machine to Chris Shearburn. They're side by side for position, and Kerwin again holding strong up on the outside is going to successfully defend for the time being. Shearburn can't set him up down to turn 2, so the next fight's going to be behind them. Plenty of action. Hurst sideways behind. He'll lose out in a fight with 1 car, and 3 wide now to the inside. It's Zach Novak to turn 3.
Novak did not think twice. Went to the inside of the 74 of Hurst. Hurst going to fight back on the outside. 15 sideways. Collects it up into the 74, but the 74 will continue to motor on that outside. And mentioned earlier that Taylor Hurst, we get 5-10 laps or so into the run. The 74 is like a fine wine, gets better with age and continues to work his way towards the front. 36 of Shearburn now goes back to the 14 of Casey Kerwin as they battle for that position. Richardson right behind, battling with his Chaos crewmate in Mullis, and it's side by side, stacked 2 deep. And the 36 of Shearburn has been like a yo-yo tonight here, Evan. He's been up towards the front, up towards the top 5. He's been back outside the top 15, and now he finds himself right around where he started. As he started in position number 12, he's up to 8th, and here comes Mullis. Are we going to go 3 wide again down to the 3?
He's going to go down to the inside, right up against the yellow line. It is a 3-way fight for position, and it is going to pay off just like that. Jimmy Mullis gets 2 spots around the 14 and the 36, and he rockets into P7. Nicely done for the drive of the 27 Toyota. Not done yet, though, because Shearburn trying to get back at him. Dives to the inside of the racetrack. That one is not going to work out. We really want to give you a full field rundown. We'll hold it off for a moment as we continue to watch these drivers do battle at lap number 52, but we'll remind you at least that this portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Herculiner Bedliner. The tough comes easy. We'll get to the iRacing midway race break in just a moment as this 5-6 car pack shows no signs of settling down. It's the 15 again at Novak. He went 3 wide down into this quarter a couple of laps ago, Tim. The left side tires were in the grass on that move. At least this time he's on the curb as he tries to get up on the inside of the 14 car.
Oh, the 15 is sideways out of turn 3. The 74 of Hurst, nowhere to go but to the back bumper, and now to the outside he goes on the number 15 of Novak. And it seems like Novak does not like that inside line, but in order to try to set up a pass in turn 3, that's really the way he has to go, or the place he has to go to try to set it up. Now he'll go to the inside of Richardson through 1, try to clear him. The 1 will roll the top and will still be there on the 15 as they drive it down the straightaway. The 74 of Hurst looks on, but the 15 of Zach Novak, if he's still here down to the inside in turn 3, we'll have to watch and see how he handles it. The 74 will make the move on the 1 as well. The 1 of Richardson may have scraped the wall. The 74 continues to work the inside. Man, what a show these guys are putting on.
I know they call it the Darlington stripe, but I think the right side of all of these race cars is going to look very similar after this race. And just as that battle winds down, another one picks up. It's Novak again on the attack, this time on the inside of the 14 to Casey Kerwin. In front of all of this, Jimmy Mullis has done a good job of running away. He's about to challenge Nick Ottinger for 6, but watch that side-by-side fight down to corner number 1, and it is the inside that pays off, and there's always that second car in line. It starts as a 2-car fight. 1 car makes the pass, and that pesky 3rd car always tries to sneak in and steal that positioning. In this case, it was Taylor Hurst, got a nose there, but not enough of a run to at least get the position, but a great entry into the corner. I think he caught the 14 sleeping, because I didn't think Taylor Hurst had that, and he gets the spot.
And he drove it up off the corner to try to get in front of the number 14. I wouldn't say a slide job. He had control of that race car, but he just drove it up and made sure that it stuck. And there again, Marcus Richardson slides in and tries to take a position away from Kerwin, and he will do so. And it's all about momentum. You see two cars battling in front of you, they're going to lose a little bit of momentum to that driver right behind, and by the time that position gets decided, the other driver is there and ready to make a position as you ride on board with the Napa number 14 of Kerwin, right on the back bumper of that Chaos Crew driver in the one, Marcus Richardson. They continue to go at it, and oh, by the way, you mentioned that battle between Mullis and Ottinger, Evan. It's a battle no more. Mullis has pulled away with position number 6 and put a fair gap on Ottinger in a lap or so. You see it right there, and Ottinger, it looks like he's one of those drivers that is falling back here in the middle portion of this second run. He's got Shearburn closing in as well. Won't be long before that 36 is there.
Yeah, something tells me these drivers are going to be back to doing a battle in just a minute, but as they single file out for a brief moment, let's take this opportunity as we cross the halfway point in tonight's race to take a look at our iRacing Midway Race Break, brought to you by iRacing, the leading online racing simulation developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service. iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks from all around the globe. And in the fast-paced world of eSports, iRacing is your one-stop shop for online racing with officially sanctioned series by the likes of NASCAR and many more. As we work lap number 56, Keegan Leahy is your race leader. The gap sits right now at 7.4 seconds. Back to Christian Challenger, who leads on top of Ray Alfala third. Ryan Lusa back up to P4, race high for him thus far, and Nicholas Shelton inside of the top 5. Behind them, Jimmy Mullis runs in the number 6 position. This is some of those cars we've been watching for the better part of the last 10 minutes. Nick Ottinger behind, scored in 7th position. Chris Shearburn in the 36 car scored an 8th spot. Zach Novak behind is 9th, and Taylor Hurst rounds out your top 10.
And not too far behind, one of those drivers that was involved in that battle was Marcus Richardson. He sits in 11th. Michael Conti, little ways off that battle as well in 12th. Casey Kerwin trying to close in on the 5 of Conti. He runs in position 13. Colton Davis, Brad Davies complete your top 15 as Dylan Duval doing a great job here this evening as well in his return to the series in 16th. Andrew Fash, Michael Guest, Corey Vincent all the way back in 19th place, and looks like he's battling with Michael Guest for 18th. He'll take that position. And rounding off your top 20 is the 34 of Matt Busa.
And then continuing on behind Busa, Brian Schoenberg is scored in the number 21 position. Alex Berger on 22nd with Chris Overland 23rd, Blake Reynolds 24th, and David Rattler in P25. Phil Diaz down in 26th spot, Joe Letteriello 27th. A lot of these drivers started back here and haven't been able to make up much time. You got Brandon Pitgrass in 28th. 29th is Nolan Scott, Casey Tucker in 30th, and then the final car on the lead lap is Logan Clampett. 31st position, came into this evening needing a good points night to be able to get up into the top 8 in the points. He was at a 7-point deficit. It's going to be a lot more difficult for him come Texas. He's also the last car on the lead lap. 2 cars that are lapped out. Bobby Zelensky's 32nd. Ryan Lowe is 33rd. And then Derek Bordeaux continues to ride 9 laps down 34th. Gilliland is in the garage. That is a complete look top to bottom at your iRacing Midway Race Break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, you can visit iRacing.com to sign up today. And you might not necessarily be able to hop right into the NASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series level of competition. If you're signing up for the first time, go to iRacing.com/membership. All new iRacing memberships. Doesn't matter if it's 3 months, doesn't matter if it's 2 years, 40% off at iRacing.com/membership. So a good opportunity to take advantage of. And Tim, now we play the waiting game, that transition period after the stops has faded, and we're no more than 10 laps away from another trip down pit road.
And Keegan Leahy up in front, as you mentioned, still has an over a second lead on Christian Chalner, and Ryan Lusa in 3rd. And you see Ryan Lusa right up there in Ray Alfala's windshield trying to chase him down for position number 3, and Ryan Lusa trying to pull away and catch the number 78 of Chalner, which is about a 1.5 or so ahead of that number 6 car. And for the most part in the top 5, everybody is status quo, no real battles per se, and you can pretty much say the same throughout the top 10. Chris Shearburn was reeling in Nick Ottinger at one point, and I think he's going to be there. You see those 2 cars in the middle of your screen, but I don't think the closing rate was as great as it was a few laps ago. Yes, Shearburn is now there, and that's the closest battle within the top 10. We'll see how that plays out with Ottinger in 7th and Shearburn in 8th.
You just kind of have to watch the intervals at this point and see who's made those extra strides. I had, talked about somebody like a Hurst on the last green flag run, make up those 4 or 5 positions, and then you kind of hope for a yellow, because the biggest disadvantage here is you could be passing cars, you could be faster than the race leader, but you're not going to make up 12, 11 seconds like these drivers. Lewis is a great example. He's driven his way up to 3rd. He's still 9 seconds off of the race lead. You're not going to make that time up under green flag conditions alone. Now, if we got a caution, I think he's got a better race car than Keegan Leahy, and Leahy's got a 7.2 second lead on the next closest competitor on the racetrack from the race lead. So there are certainly factors like that where a yellow would really benefit somebody, where it would also really hurt somebody. Keegan Leahy wants this thing to run out to the end. All he needs to do is get another 40 laps of green flag action. We've run 40 laps consecutively under green flag conditions to get to the point we run at right now. So it looks ever so more possible the later into this race we continue to run.
You saw a flash a few moments ago on your screen of the 10 of Corey Vincent. Just made the move on Brad Davies for position number 17 and now sets his sights on Dylan Duval. There's that number 10 of Vincent. Ran up front early, qualified in position number 3, and now is behind the 8 ball as he tries to chase down the rest of this field. He'll be one of those drivers that will really want that green flag pit stop coming up here in a few laps time. But just in front of him, give a call out to Dylan Duval in the 42 car as well. He's been missing a couple of races, and it's hard to come back into the series and run up front where you're used to running after being off for a few weeks. Everybody seems to know the car, seems to know the setups on these race cars, and Dylan Duval's done a great job so far, sitting in position number 16 and not looking too out of place, and we'll see what he can do to try to get a top 10 finish out of this whole thing as they chase down Andrew Fayash, the 3rd, just in front of them. You saw that orange flash on your screen. You see it right there. A little ways to go to catch up to the number 77. He's doing a great job tonight, too, in 15th.
Yeah, try to work together to be able to catch up to your 15th placed runner, Andrew Fayash, the 3rd. He's up a handful of spots as you see Corey Vincent actually try to go up on the outside of the 42. It is going to give him a good run off of the tunnel turn. Not enough, I don't think, to challenge to turn 3. And it's not going to be the case. Probably going to force the issue if he really wanted to, but you see he stays within that 3/4 of a car length. And the real key here is to get the run off of the corner. That car pushed a little bit too much, and you see the 42 get a little bit more breathing room, so it's not going to happen this time around for Corey Vincent. He and Davies, 2 drivers. You mentioned Corey Vincent was running up front. He started 3rd. Brad Davies behind him at 18th position, started 6th as well. Those are the 2 drivers who would really like to kind of throw things back to about an hour ago when they started this race up towards the front of the field. They're working with what they can in the center of it all. And any moment now, going to cross over to that point in which we get inside of that fuel window. Again, the easy call is split your 60-lap run to the end in half, pit, rated around lap 70. And if I'm somebody in 14th, 13th, I feel like nothing's happening, why not try to shoot for it, maybe go 5 laps sooner, see what you can make happen.
Yeah, that would be the easy call to split it into 2, but that's why we're up here and they're down there, and the ever-changing strategies of this race are being tracked by these crew chiefs. If you're new to this NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing series, a lot of these teams do have strategists that try to figure out where to pit during the race and the trends and what have you, as you would have during the NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series races, as you see Vincent finally take that spot away from Duval and tries to track down the next driver in line for him, which would be Andrew Fayash, the 3rd. Just behind them, another battle between the 34 of Matt Busa, the 13 of Brad Davies. And there's another driver that I thought would be running a little bit closer towards the front of the field, and you're right on board with him right now. That's Matt Busa. Busa comes in 4th place in the standings, and before that one drop, and Evan, I think that's the top of the bubble per se, and I say that because Matt Busa has 309, Nick Ottinger 298 coming in, Logan Clampett 1 back at 291. So I guess if Logan Clampett's going to have a bad night, this is probably the best night to pick for a bad night for the 34 of Busa, but you really don't want to do that this close to the playoff cutoff. Not necessarily a bad night, still in the game as he goes to the inside of the 13 of Brad Davies. We've seen these races play out a couple of different ways at the end, but Matt Busa, I'm sure this is not the night that he wanted to have at Pocono.
It's certainly not that I would like to have, but to your point, I think he's fairly safe. I think if you look 31 points in front of him, Leahy's certainly good. Zelensky Alfala, it would take quite a collapse for Busa. 20th position, although he did just pass Brad Davies. So 19th position, certainly not the objective when you head into a race any week, but I don't think that classifies as the catastrophic kind of race that you would have to really start sweating going into Texas. If he was down to where Logan Clampett was running in 31st, Clampett is somebody who's, at that point maybe running into the top 10, top 5, I think then it's certainly a different circumstance. So, well, Clampett that may not be as hurt by this because some of the other drivers in front of him at the points are having bad nights. It also hurts those drivers equally as much because they're kind of keeping those other drivers in this scene by having an off night themselves, when if you were able to knock out a really solid finish, you could almost put your foot on their throat and just kind of cut this thing off and try to lock it up. The top 8, that's your objective. And if you can't secure it tonight, 2 weeks' time, Texas Motor Speedway round 13 is where we'll finally get the official word on who will fight for this 2018 championship. We're still about 34 laps away from winding down around 12 as Keegan Leahy completes lap 66.
As you see a battle on your screen, I believe that's Pip Grass and Overland going at it for a position. When you look at the bottom side of that bubble, though, when we talk about points, you have Taylor Hurst running really well, top 10 so far tonight. He's doing what he has to do. Zach Novak, top 10, doing what he has to do to keep himself in that battle. Christian Chalner obviously has run one of the best races he's run all season, currently in position number 2, doing what he has to do to have a shot at the bubble. Yes, Logan Clampett not having the best of nights, Matt Busa not having the best of nights. It's going to create a logjam, I think, going in to that final race at Texas as to who's going to make it and who's not. But we still have, we're on lap 67 of 100. We still have a lot of laps to go here. But if it were to end now, man, oh man, Texas would have a very interesting points picture to try to cut yourself into the playoffs. Keegan Leahy, obviously doing what he has to do up in front as well and leading this thing, but Pip Grass and Overland putting on a little bit of a show there. There's the 24, and there's nobody around him right now. There's a 7.3 second gap back to position number 2. He doesn't have to worry right now, just has it essentially on virtual cruise control. There's Michael Conti in the 5, I believe that was, as you look back to Chalner, and that actually might have been Schoenberg in that number 55 as they continue to work around here, and pit stops are going to start, and we're going to shake up the field a little bit here as we get closer to that lap 70 mark.
And I'm curious if the fight for second is going to happen before we get to the pit stops, or if pit stops are going to affect this thing and it's going to go down to that final run. But Luza has closed in. You can see Challenger in the 78 machine not all that far in front of him. The gap between second and third is now down to less than 1 second between the two of them. And there is no lapped cars or anything interfering. Something tells me if the 6 machine were to be able to get up to Challenger, at that point he would just decide to come down and pit and just kind of make that his marker. But Keegan Leahy, race leader, in from the number 1 position at lap number 60. And you see Ray Alfalla rejoining the racetrack. He went for the short pit as well. But your race leader going to pit with 31 laps to go. And once again, he is one of the first cars in.
Watching the 36 of Shearburn, you see it on your screen right there. Michael Guest just came out of pit road, and Chris Shearburn had a head of steam coming down into turn 1. There was almost a big collision there, but they saved those race cars, and Shearburn's been the one in the move. You see Ottinger behind. He just passed Nick Shelton that last lap. The run goes on and goes to completion to the end of this race. Shearburn might not have enough to catch that car on your screen right now, Keegan Leahy, but I think he's going to have enough for a top 5 finish, but we'll see how this one plays out. I like Shearburn on the long run, though. Maybe not as much as the 24, but I do like him for a top 5 run.
We'll see if the 36 can put that together. He is going to come down at the pit lane and play his car. Nick Ottinger also coming into the pit lane. He'll file a little bit more aggressive, but he entered into that one and makes up a little bit of time into the box. But that's your current race leader, Christian Challenger. He did stretch it out a long time that first time around. And we did see green flag service right at about lap 40 in this race. Right now you see Luza continues to try to close in on him, 7/10 of a second behind. Luza has been consistently the fastest car on track. Just keep in mind, he started in 35th position, essentially. Even worse than that, because he wasn't even with the field coming to the green flag, and he is driven up to within 7/10 of Christian Challenger, who arguably, Tim, has had a very good race, and a car from 35th has caught him. That's how good Luza is, but I don't think Luza can win this race without a yellow or something really wrong happening with the 24 team, just based on the fact that by starting so far behind, by not taking to the grid, he's got speed, but it's taken him this much time to get there.
but having a great race as well. And I know Ryan Luz is probably not thinking points, but he has to have it in the back of his mind to try to get himself into the playoff picture. Chalner, again, doing what he has to do to get up front and try to vie for a playoff position heading into the playoffs after the Texas Motor Speedway round. Is Michael Guest in the 54, one of those first drivers to make the call to pit road, makes the move on Chalner and begins to pull away and tries to make up as much time as he can. Those are your top two, though, on the racetrack. Novak runs in position number 3 still on the racetrack. Shelton is just coming off of pit road in car number 12, so he's taken the opportunity to head down as your top two. Pull away and pull off of turn number 3 and not going into pit road, and not going into pit road is Zach Novak as well.
They continue to stay out onto the racetrack, and this is the strategy that I think a lot of cars will show this run. There's always a chance when you start to have cars come off of the pit lane, fresh tires, and there's a noticeable speed difference that things could get a little bit interesting as Rattler's going to dive down to the pit lane from the number 6 position and finally get his service. There's always a chance there could be an incident, so you'll see some drivers really try to milk this thing, but as that 78 Challenger is significantly slower than the cars who are rejoining the racetrack, you have to start to track the movements of the 24 machine. Keegan Leahy up to P5 already, so a good majority of these cars have gotten service. Challenger, Luza, Novak, and Duval all the way to come down in 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th.
As you see the battle up in front, that is now the battle for the lead as Luza goes to the inside of Chalner, and they'll fight it out for position number 1 before heading down to pit road at some point. These drivers will have to come down onto pit road at least one more time. The 02 of Alex Bergeron. You see the tire difference in those cars. Into the inside goes the 02. Oh boy, that was close between those two. The 77 of Fayash, the 66 of Reynolds also up here on the new tires, trying to unlap themselves from your top two, which is currently Luza and Chalner. And some close quarters here as they battle with the leaders.
Yeah, those are technically lap cars fighting around the guys that are battling for the race lead. The 6 is your race leader. The 78 Challenger scored in second. All of those cars are a lap down. They're normally the ones that have to get out of the way. They're much faster, and a little bit of an interesting situation there, and now they do pit. I am surprised, I will say, that Challenger did not pit last time when that 6 was catching up to him and maybe go for the undercut and get that spot back. Instead, they wait one more lap. They're both down pit road. Luza should be able to maintain P2 after this service when they will rejoin the racetrack, and he knows that he's about 7 seconds off of who will cycle back to the race lead, the 24 machine of Keegan Leahy, if we can get that far. But you see him tracing on the front straightaway now. And the only drivers left on the racetrack, the 42 of Dylan Duval. He's really hoping he can come by the start-finish line the next time, getting that bonus point for leading a lap, but I'm not sure if that one's going to happen. Here comes the 24 car on those fresh tires and 26 laps away from a possible 3rd win on the season in a NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing series, and he cycles back to the race lead after that short pit call 5 laps ago.
And Dylan Duval slapped the wall that last time at a corner number 3 and will surrender the lead to the 24 of Keegan Leahy. Both drivers from Halifax, Nova Scotia, putting on a show up in front, but on 2 different strategies. I would assume to see Duval down on pit road this time by, as he surrendered the lead that time. Never technically took the lead at the start-finish line, but the 42 will head down and surrender that front-running position to Keegan Leahy. And there's a nice little battle on your screen. That's Jimmy Mullis in the 27 and Taylor Hurst in the 74 as they duke it out. The RTR 74 trying to get the run on the Racing Virginia number 27 as they'll drive it down into corner number 1, and nothing doing from Hurst going down to the first corner, at least yet. He gets a great run, drives it deep though.
It drives it hard into the corner, and these two drivers get to trace one another, should say, in the center. These cars pitted at lap number 69, at least in the case of the 27 of Mullis. You saw him come in at lap number 69. Looks like Hurst pitted earlier at that same point. So they pitted together, they run out on the racetrack together as all of this continues to cycle through, and those intervals up at the top of your screen now are going to start to rearrange themselves back into what our running order really should look like, as we've completed now 2 cycles of green flag service. We had that yellow early in the opening 10 laps, and since then, smooth sailing from the Poconos and it is Keegan Leahy's advantage now being timed at 9.2 seconds to Ray Alfala. Jimmy Mullis up 12 seconds back in third, where Taylor Hirsch tucks up behind in P4. So these drivers now kind of have their the tail of the tape per se lined out. They know what it's going to take and to work it against here.
I'm kind of interested to see where Michael Conti shakes out in this one. He's currently running in position number 5, just off those drivers right there, and he was one of the first drivers to peel off to pit road. Brandon Hastings, one of the best in the business, to try to pick up strategy. You saw the first race at Daytona where they used a little bit of strategy to run up front and try to take away the win in that one, but he's going to have Shearburn close up on him in the 36. The 36 of Shearburn has a little bit newer tires on that race car compared to the 5, but we'll see how that all plays out for the number 5 of Conti, one of the first to come down into pit road, currently 5th, but he's got a lot of hungry competitors behind him. There goes the 36 to the upside.
36 goes up at the upside of the racetrack, and it is going to be a pass-for position. Shearburn slides into 5th, and Conti, for the time being, going to fall to P number 6. As we close into the final quarter of this race, this portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Blue Def Diesel Exhaust Fluid, the #1 selling DEF in America. We've seen a lot of these races this season come down to a question of who's going to want it more towards the end of a race. Is it going to be a veteran? Is it going to be a young gun? This one might come down to the strategy of the last hour and a half. Keegan Leahy is going to try to close out with 23 laps to go from Pocono. We take a quick opportunity to step aside. Back in a moment. We're watching the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing series on RaceSpot TV.
Things can get rough out there.
The bumper to the back of the 24!
You think you got the brass?
I proved it last season.
That was last year. Now we've got young blood ready to take out the old. Start your engines. It's time to race.
And back live from the Pocono Raceway, closing in on 20 laps to go at round number 12 of the 2018 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series. Remember that you're with us on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing eSports Network. Evan Pasoko, Tim Terry up with you. We watch your race leader, Keegan Leahy, trying to search for a third win on 2018. If you just tuned it in late in this one, we've been green since about lap number, I believe we went back green at lap 11 specifically, and have gone through 2 complete cycles of green flag service. You see a lapped car getting way out of the way for the 24 machine. But a topic of a lot of these laps, Tim, has been Ryan Lewis' ability to come for the back of the pack. Well, on that last trip down to the pit lane, a big mistake in the box, overshot it, had to back it up. Took about 8 seconds to just get that car into the box, and he falls from P2 to 14th.
That's a long way to fall, especially with what we have brewing on this racetrack with a green flag run. Yeah, if he gets a caution or so, he might be able to get up to this battle, but you see a great battle on your screen right now with Jimmy Mullis and Taylor Hirsch. Hirsch has been trying to get to the inside of that number 27 of Mullis, and it's going to get tight down here into the corner. Hurst is better on that long run. He's going to move to position number, if he can get by. He can't do so out of that corner, but I think Hurst is a little bit better on that long run. He might be able to get to Ray if he can get by Jimmy, but that might be all, because I think it's going to be a tall task to get to Keegan Leahy at the end of this.
Yeah, I think you're going to need something to happen. And Ray's kind of checked out as well in second. He's all on his own, so that leaves this fight with Jimmy Mullis and Taylor Hirsch to kind of fight amongst themselves. Challoner's not on that far off of the back end of them as well. Remember, he always likes to wait very late, so he's got a ton of speed. You can see him looming in the distance over the shoulder of that 74 of Taylor Hirsch as we look out of the back end of Mullis down the front straightaway. I think Challoner's in a very good position here to take away third from both of these cars with the speed that he's closing in on them with.
You see the 74, take a look to the inside of the 27 of Mullis, and look out back there. You talked about that 78 of Christian Challoner being there as well. And that 36 of Shearburn's not too far behind, about a second or so off. Talked about Shearburn being a yo-yo tonight, and he could be a part of this little battle here before this one is all said and done. Final 20 laps of this race at Pocono. The intensity continues to ramp up. You ride on with Christian Chalner looking up at that battle in front for position number 3. Alfala about 3 seconds in front of this battle. So if they can catch up to Ray Alfala, might be a battle for position number 2. But right now, it's all for 3rd. And look at Taylor Hurst sideways at a 3.
He knows that that 78 machine was coming. He wanted to get that pass on Mullis done now and get a buffer between he and that 78 Toyota. It's not going to happen to the inside of the racetrack. It easy does it for Christian Challenger. He gets one of the spots back. He'll go from 5th to 4th. And I believe it's just a matter of time. Probably is going to have it by the end of the lap here on the 27. Very little Mullis can do, having short-pitted that 78 strategy by a significant margin. He's really on the shorthand here as we head back down to the tunnel turn. We'll come to 18 laps to go this next time around, and a big smack to the outside wall there for Taylor Hurst. Another car finds the wall at a quarter number 2, and that's not going to help his case at all as he drops back another car length or so. But here comes the 78, the run off to the corner. He'll look to the inside, and here we go, side by side, P3.
He set up that move at a turn number 3. Beautiful setup. He'll drive it down into corner number 1. Now, who wants it more? Who drives it deeper into corner number 1? Mullis on the outside line, drives it in deep, but not as deep as that inside car, Christian Chalner. Chalner will take that position, and we'll see if he can close in on that 2 of Ray Alfala. You just saw Alfala out of the corner of your screen. There's that gap back, and man, oh man, that 78's got a really quick race car. He's shown it all night long. Qualified up in front and is poised for a top 5 position, currently in 3rd. See what he can do here in these waning laps.
He might be the one to catch Ray Alfala. I was questioning if we were going to see that kind of a speed at Mullis at Hurst, but certainly Challenger has a shot at this. Remember, that's the position that he had been in after he again started this race at a pole position at the start of it all, but has really never left the top 5 with the exception of when you kind of have to deal with cycling things through after a pit stop like this. But Ray's last lap was a 54.3, and it was a 53.8 for Challenger, so even while he was working around traffic, got about a half a second on him. That gap right now at 2 seconds. If you can keep that interval relatively close, and you can see the split in between the 2 of them on the bottom of your screen there, it'll show you live how that 78 machine closes in. I think he'll also, going to be more difficult certainly than the pass for 3rd there, but I think he's in a pretty good spot to catch up to Ray. Ray might be a lock-in for 3rd. I don't see those other cars catching him, but I think Challenger passed it Ray Alfala for 2nd. It might be the one, shoe still to drop in this race.
Chris Shearburn, I think, has a good race car right now, but I don't think he's good enough to catch Ray Alfala and make up what would be 5 seconds over the next 15 laps. But we've seen some weirder things happen. You look behind him, Nick Shelton is there having a great run, and he definitely needs one in position number 6 right now in the point standings, running in 7th on the racetrack. Nick Ottinger, there's another driver that's on that bubble position that needs a good run here this evening. He's running in position number 8. He's 8th in the championship, and one of those drivers on the outside looking in is Zach Novak, and he's looking at Nick Ottinger for position number 8 on the racetrack. And Conti, that driver that pitted earlier than everybody else, he's still hanging around in position number 10. So there's some drivers, those drivers that need good runs this evening to try to get themselves a little bit closer to that playoff picture. A lot of them running in the top 10 right now and trying to solidify their playoff position. But I say that the top 10, all of them at some point, with the exception of maybe Chris Shearburn, he might be a little bit too far back in the points battle, they have a shot at making the top 8, but there's 9 of them in the top 10 right now, and there's only 8 playoffs positions, so you can do the math on that one.
Yeah, something's got to give, and of course we mentioned into tonight that Nick Ottinger was the driver who was having to play defense, had a 7-point advantage to Logan Clampett while he runs into P8. Clampett certainly not 7 positions in front of him. Clampett in 31st position, loses a ton. So the next driver that Ottinger has to be concerned about, Christian Challenger. The 78 is probably going to slide up into P9 after this race and be 1 position off of a spot in the playoffs, headed into Texas. Again, that unofficial. And of course, we look at the points now. We have to factor in that a drop week in these first 13 weeks, each driver's worst finish going to be subtracted. So that could very well be the case for Logan Clampett right now, as he's scored in 31st position. So a lot is still to be determined but I think Challenger, out of all these drivers inside of the top 10, the one that I look at as stepping to the plate and making some noise when he matters the most.
And you look at Novak right now. Novak, when you take away that drop, or before that drop, is 19 points out of Nick Ottinger. Looking up in that top 10, or top 8, you see Conti in the top 10 right now, doing what he has to do, but as long as you're within striking distance going into that final race, and if you can make something happen at Texas, or at least control your own destiny with a top 5 finish, anything can happen behind you, and that's what some of these drivers are trying to do right now. But once we factor in that drop and we head to Texas, there's going to be a little bit of a change, but I think this is one of the closest points pictures that we've seen for drivers trying to get into that playoff position and vie for a championship. And you see Nick Ottinger. Nick Ottinger has Novak on his front bumper. They just made that position, but Ottinger not going to let him have it easy, continuing to keep him honest as they work through corner number 3. They'll come up this time by and have 13 laps to go.
13 laps to go as we get oh so closer, and I'm sure these laps do not feel like 54 or 55 seconds. If you are Keegan Leahy, you want this thing done with ASAP. But Challenger now trying to complete that pass. He's gotten a lot of the legwork out of the way. He's gotten to Ray. The two's going to have to be awfully aggressive if he has any sort of hopes of, holding the 78 machine off here and try to defend P2. The 78 also very aware he's got 12 laps to make this happen. There is no pressure from behind on him. You don't need to throw it down into corner number 1 the first time you get within the same zip code as the 2 machine and risk taking both of those cars out. So Challenger is certainly going to try to set him up as you ride on board with him, and you can see he tries to get the position in. There's a little bit of running needed. He dives to the inside, and at 12 laps to go, Challenger's going to go to the inside of Ray Alfala. This is the fight for second position. You see how hard the 2 wants to drive it down into the corner, and we've reached a point in the race where these guys are willing to fight for everything they've got, and the 2 machine outside hangs on.
We've also reached the point of the run where these cars start to fall off a little bit, Evan, when it comes to handling. It looked like the 78 of Challenger was a little bit unstable going down into corner number 1. Might have upset the race car a little bit, and Ray Alfala took advantage of that, and just one small little slip put him back in front of that battle. But you'd also have to believe as well that Ray Alfala knows there's a 2-second difference or so between himself and what would be the 4th place driver, and you can see him as they battle side by side. You can see Jimmy Mullis creeping into the picture as well. If they continue to do this side by side, Jimmy Mullis is going to be able to creep into the picture a little bit sooner rather than later. So we had that conversation about 5 laps ago, Evan. If Ray loses his position, which he does right now to Christian Challenger, would anybody else catch him? Is he comfortable in 3rd? I think with that little battle, I think the answer is no, because you can see Jimmy Mullis out of the rear bumper of Christian Challenger.
You can see Challenger, having to move in the 2nd position, but off to the back end. Mullis, I think, is close enough to maybe make some noise with Ray Alfala. And again, you got to tip the cap to the 2. We talked about some of those battles early in this race when they would go side by side to 1 and 2, and even down in 3, the drivers would back off. And very cordial about how these positions were exchanged on many occasions, but it was a great defensive maneuver that he pulled out a couple of laps ago on the outside. Again, you can only do so much when the tires are not in your favor, and Challenger, as they suspected, was able to get up into the number 2 position. The question is, will Ray Alfala get another top 3 finish, and will it come here tonight? Last lap, Mullis was better by a 1/10 of a second. He's going to need to be a little bit better than that, though, to catch him with 9 laps to go in this race. That could be a battle that comes down to the white flag. He go on board with the 27. That's the gap he's looking at making up.
Jimmy Mullis is going to have to get up on the wheel, but as you mentioned, he still has 10 laps to get there. This thing is far from done, but I think Ray Alfala is going to turn up the wick a little bit here as well. You see a beautiful entrance into turn 2 for Jimmy Mullis, and he'll be there. The question is how wide does Ray Alfala make the car? And you saw him put up a fight with Challenger on the outside. You know Ray Alfala is not going to go down without a fight. But right now, position number 3, Ray Alfala looks pretty comfortable. Challenger begins to pull away a little bit in this battle, 11 seconds or so behind Keegan Leahy, who pretty much has this thing on a cruise control up in front and trying to solidify himself into a playoff position.
The one concern for Leahy is there may be a couple of cars, as you see the 20 machine about boost On the front straightaway here, 34 machine should say, Matt Busa side by side with the 66. Matt Busa scored in 20th at that moment. He fights with the 66 car. That's Blake Reynolds coming on by on the outside of the racetrack. You can see some of the battle scars on those machines as they have met other race cars. They have met the fence on several occasions this evening. All of that rough and tough of action in a race that has only seen one caution flag through 92 laps of action. And if you're Leahy, you don't really have to hold your breath all the way to lap number 100. You can't make a mistake for the next 8 laps, but a big moment for him is when we get to 4 laps to go, because there is no overtime in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing series. So if you get to 4 to go, a yellow comes out, this race will pace to the end and to the scheduled distance of 100 laps. So that's the number 1 goal for the 24, is see this race get to lap number 97. Then he can worry about taking care of that race car and getting it the next 4 laps all the way through to completion.
Wants to get to that point and try to lock up this victory, but we still have a couple of laps before we get there, and anything can happen. But on the other side too, we've been green since lap number 11. You don't want to be quote-unquote that guy that brings out the yellow flag and don't want to say ruins the finish of it, but creates a different strategy and possibly all bets are on the table sort of scenario. But there's a couple of battles throughout this race, and you see us scrolling through. There's Casey Kerwin on your screen. That's Marcus Richardson. And there's Ryan Luza. We talked about that a little bit earlier, where Luza had the problem on the final pit stop of the evening, or the final green flag pit stop on the evening. And if he can get by these two, Evan, that would be the battle for position number 11. I don't know if he can catch Michael Conti in position number 10, but he's going to get by these two first, and they are going to put up a fight. So Ryan Luza, keep in mind that 306-point total that he has, he's missed races. He's got no drops. That's the point total that he has. So it's going to be good and bad, but there's 2 points here on the line if he can get by these two for position, and they're side by side right now. Keep an eye on this one. This one's going to be big.
But not at all be surprised if this thing comes down to a couple of single-digit point margins at the end of Texas. The 1 car gets that spot. The 6 machine also going to get on the bye, so Casey Kerwin drops 2, and the 6 now to the back bumper of the 1. Looks to the inside, doesn't want to make the move, and maybe attempting to make that move into the corner is going to hurt him off. He'll still get the run, though, and he tries to make it happen. I'm not sure he'll be able to get it this time unless he really goes aggressive into the corner.
We've seen stranger things. Ryan Luza goes to the inside, pokes the nose to the inside of the 1 of Richardson, and they'll dance for that position. And might not be too much of a dance, might be a short little tango, because the 1 of Marcus Richardson going to let that position up and is going to get the run off the corner, gets right up to the back bumper of the 6, but doesn't make the move to the inside on the straightaway. We'll see if he decides to duck it down here, and Ryan Luza will pitch it into the corner, and Luza will drive off with that position, and that will be for position number 11. Question is, can he catch Michael Conti? He's got about 3 seconds to get there.
He's running out of time to be able to get up to Michael Conti for sure, and that 5 machine in a fight of his own. He's all over the back end of the 74 of Taylor Hurst. It has been a quietly good night for Conti. I know that this team has been looking for a lot of better finishes towards the second half of the season, and I'm sure they might want more than a P9, but that's the spot he's going to take as he goes to the inside of the 74. If he completes this pass, he gains 16 over the course of the night, shows a lot of resiliency. Can't slide high, though. The 74 keeps his foot in it, and with a great run out of the corner, Hurst now in a better position. He gets all the way back around the 5 as they head down to corner number 2. Does the 5 use the tunnel turn? He'll try, and the 74 shuts the door on him.
And you look way back there, Ryan Luza licking his chops right now. He's got Bobby Zelensky between himself and this little battle, but Taylor Hurst trying to make that position on Conti, and if they continue to go at it, that 6 car is going to be there. So keep an eye on this battle right here. You look back from the lockdown racing number 74, back to the forefront number 5 of Michael Conti. They're battling hard for that position, and every single point counts, maybe a little bit more for Conti rather than it is Hurst, but it's a position on the racetrack, and it's coming down to the final few laps of this one. Conti, you better believe, wants that position.
And he really wants that position, and unfortunately, again, not a spot that we'll have an opportunity to chat with him. But again, a big night for somebody like him. Zach Novak's had a great night to go up to 7th. Colton Davis fought hard for 14th position, so But we do get the opportunity to talk to your top 5. There's a lot of drivers who I think are going to come at it tonight feeling pretty good. And they're almost at that juncture. The 5 going to try to set him up again. Down to corner number 3. I think the key at this end of the racetrack team, don't necessarily challenge in. You can see the 74 really sideways now for Taylor Hurst. Focus on your exit, and that's going to be the one that gets him to the inside. The 74, very impressive to be able to get some speed off of the quarter off of all of that, but I think Michael Conti's got this on lock. He clears for P9.
Yeah, he had that little bobble and then pushed like a dump truck up into corner number 3 and on the out to the front straightaway, and now Taylor Hurst, you see it there a little bit. That thing's pushing, and then it snapped loose off the corner, and that thing does not look fun to drive if you're Taylor Hurst. He's going to fall back off of Conti, and as long as he can keep it straight, I think he's got 10th, but Ryan Luza is also closing in on his back porch as well, so Taylor Hurst trying to hold on to what would be a top 10 run here. Keep an eye on Ryan Luza, see if he can get up there and get to position number 10, but up in front continues to be Keegan Leahy. It's by almost 11 seconds now. He's in a little bit of traffic, but it really shouldn't matter a whole lot as they're coming down to 2 to go.
And the 24 machine is pretty aware, I'm sure, that he's got that 10.5 second advantage, but last time around, that car's getting right up on the outside wall. There is no tiptoeing to the end for Keegan Leahy. The lap car, the 04 machine, going to stay up and out of the way. Derek Bordeaux, kudos to that driver who's going to stay in this race, the majority of it multiple laps down for a 34th place result, but sticking it through to the end. But for Keegan Leahy, he looks for the white nylon, second to last time at quarter number 3 as we head for the white flag.
And as Keegan Leahy will take the white flag this time, most battles throughout the top 10 are pretty much decided. White silk in the air, final lap for Keegan Leahy. Man, oh man, it's been a great season for him, and this will only solidify his playoff chances heading in to that final round before the cutoff at the Texas Motor Speedway. The 24 car has put up a dominant performance this evening. As the run goes on, green flag pit stops. Nobody has been able to catch the virtual racing school number 24.
And to be questioned for some of the drivers that are comfortable headed to the playoffs, well, what do you do in these next few races? Do you play it safe? Do you just ride around? You experiment a little bit? But Keegan Leahy's decided that it's going to be business as usual. He wants the race wins, and he'll come at a turn number 3 for the final time tonight at Pocono. It'll close off at an 89-lap green flag run to the end. And it is going to be his 3rd race win on 2018 and a first since Kansas. Leahy wins from Pocono, 3rd on the season for him in the 2018 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series, a statement just weeks away from the start of the playoffs.
It's a big statement for them as they continue to come across the line to complete this race. Back behind, you see Taylor Hurst and Ryan Luza. Hurst could not hold on to that position, and he'll fall out of the top 10 in the late stages. And for Ryan Luza, that could potentially be a point that he will need on the opposite end of the Texas Motor Speedway race. Hurst falls back one spot, and I don't want to say that's going to lock up his shot at potentially missing the playoffs, but it's going to be a hard sled in 2 weeks' time.
It is certainly going to be very difficult, and that cut line that we discussed at length earlier on in the evening is not going to look at all the way that it did headed into tonight when we do get to Texas in 2 weeks' time for the final race of the regular season, where we finally find out the 8 names that will have an opportunity to become a champion in this NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series. Everybody else in the field has cycled through, completed lap number 100, and the front straightaway belongs to Keegan Leahy. He hasn't done this in a little bit, but he now joins Luza as the only 3-time winners on the season. Great piece of driving for the driver of the number 24 machine, and we talked about how Pocono likes to serve up different race winners. Well, you can look all the way back to 2011 and now on 2 different scans of Pocono on the iRacing service. 7 races and 7 different winners as Leahy takes it this time around.
Yeah, he never forgot how to do a burnout on the front straightaway at these races. As Keegan Leahy lights it up, and he'll set his sights on Texas. And as you mentioned, the pressure is going to be off for that driver, as if it wasn't already. They can go out, they can play a little bit, they can try to learn some things and try to see what they can put in the notebook for that playoff round.
Let's take a look top to bottom at your RaceSpot TV full race results. Unofficial as of the end of this one. Keegan Leahy does get the race win tonight, as we've said, third on the season for him. A big statement, I think, as he enters into the month of August. Playoff start in just a couple of weeks' time. He's showing that he should be a force to be reckoned with headed forward. Christian Challenger is able to lock up that second place at the end of it all after starting this race on a pole. Great night for the driver of the 78 machine. Ray Alfala climbs up for the third, and two drivers that kind of followed each other through the field. Mullis started 11th, Shearburn started 12th. They come home 4th and 5th. We'll be trackside with all of them momentarily. Nicholas Shelton comes home in P6 for this one. Zach Novak, great pickup to 7th. Nick Onger comes home at 8th. Michael Conti with a P9 result, and Ryan Lewis, a rough night, started at the back, got up to 2nd, a mistake on the pit lane, only get enough for P10.
But he did make the move on Taylor Hurst in the final lap to put Taylor Hurst back to position number 11 in the top on this page. Marcus Richardson in 12th, Casey Kerwin in 13th, Colton Davis and Corey Vincent in position number 15. Vincent needed a good night tonight, not the night that he anticipated. Andrew Fayash, the third, comes home 16th, Dylan Duval 17th, Michael Guest 18th, Alex Bergeron at 19th, and completing your top 20, it's Blake Reynolds.
21st position behind Reynolds is going to be Babusas 34. David Rattler comes home 22nd with Philip Diaz 23rd, Brandon Pipgrass 24th, and Brian Schoenberg in 25th. Final couple of cars that were able to maintain running on the lead lap. 26th is Joe Letteriello, 27th for Brad Davies, and Casey Tucker rounds out your lead lap cars, P28. You've also got Chris Overland 29th and Logan Clamp at a rough night in 30th from a lap down.
And completing your field drivers that really had a bad night. Nolan Scott in position number 31, 32nd, Bobby Zielinski 2 laps down. Ryan Lowe 9 laps down, called it an early night. Derek Bordeaux toughed it out all night, finishes 11 laps down in 34th, and Adam Gilliland finishes 81 laps down in 35th position.
A complete look top to bottom at your RaceSpot TV full race results. We step aside, and when we come back to the Pocono Raceway, we'll go trackside. We talk with the top finishers. Keegan Leahy awaits us at a victory lane. He's your winner tonight from Pocono. You've been watching the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing series on the iRacing eSports Network. The post-race show still to come.
Hi, I'm Michael Conti, driver of the number 5 forefront Chevy, and you're watching iRacing Live.
Section PU 402, row 41.
Jimmy Johnson, the fastest gun in the West.
Section 104, row 4.
Blaney got his first win.
Section 25, row 3.
What a year for Bubba.
Section O, row 25.
Keselowski's gonna win at Talladega.
Section 156, row 4.
Kurt Busch to the lead on the backstretch.
Section 233, row 1.
Martin Truex Jr. wins.
You get a seat, but we doubt you'll ever use it. Grab your seats at NASCAR.com/tickets today.
The following is a presentation of the iRacing eSports Network.
And welcome back in the RaceSpot's coverage of the NASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series on the iRacing eSports Network. 12 races now complete on 2018. Keegan Leahy is your race winner tonight from the Pocono Raceway. Tim, we're going to be trackside talking with your top finishers in just a moment, but the kind of topic of conversation on our side of things before the broadcast was, well, what are the yellows going to be like tonight at Pocono? It's always something that we discuss. It's a racetrack that lends itself to some fantastic racing. I'm going to admit, I did not have my money on one yellow. 89 laps uninterrupted to the end of this race allows Leahy to pull it out by 10.5 seconds.
I've seen these races play out either way. I've seen some really good races here at Pocono, and I've seen some caution-filled races at Pocono, let's put it that way. This one was one of the best that I've seen with this series. Hats off to all those drivers. A lot of respect shown, and Keegan Leahy put it into victory lane. Had the best race car tonight, and kudos to him.
We're trackside now with the driver of the number 24 machine. As we mentioned, third time this season, Keegan Leahy gets the win. He won it earlier this year at ISM and at Kansas. And he finally gets back into victory lane here this evening from the Pocono Raceway. Keegan, congratulations on the win. A statement race, I would say, on your behalf coming into this one. You guys are safe headed to the playoffs. You don't need to go out there and win races and take all the points, and yet you guys do. Fantastic race. Walk us through it.
Thanks so much, Evan. Yeah, it was amazing. It went about as perfect as it could have. I don't think there's like a single mishap the whole race. I didn't have to avoid anything. I didn't spin out. I didn't mess up my pit stop, you know, and no cautions or anything. So just little drama as possible. Take my quick car to victory lane.
Obviously, with that caution flag coming out early in this one, some drivers, I'm sure, are thinking, here we go, and instead, it's green all the way on to the end of this race from that point, and it kind of lined things up nicely for you guys. I don't think there was a big question on what strategy would work on fuel. It seemed pretty much that everybody was in agreement. You come in, you pit twice, you do a couple of 30-lap runs, and you make it 100 laps total distance in this race. Do you feel like the fact that this race, though, went green for so long, through 2 cycles of green flag pit stops, we saw drivers like Ryan Luza, who were very fast, make mistakes when they were down on the pit lane? Did you feel like your execution and just the fact that you got to race it out green really played into your wheelhouse as opposed to a race that would have had a lot of stopping and starting and restarts?
Yeah, exactly that. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's been a few of these races where I've had this sort of speed and it just didn't go my way. Just restarts and cautions and getting caught out, sometimes it just doesn't work out for you and it completely ruins your race, and I think I've had like 4 of those this year that went exactly like that. I can't complain. Everything else has been going great. I got 3 wins. That's just racing, man. But yeah, the green flag just worked well. Did a lot of practice this week. Had the car pretty much dialed in for these long runs and knew what I had to do, and just went out there. But yeah, you're right about the pit strategy. There really wasn't much variation there, but I think there would have been if we didn't have that lap 8 caution, because it was pretty up in the air whether to do 25 lap runs, which would be a 3-stop strategy, or a 2-stopper, which would be 33 lappers, and the latter you actually have to save fuel for. So that would have been really interesting, and it would have been cool to see it go green. I was personally going to go for the 2-stopper. And also, I didn't know this, but I was very close on fuel. I only had a lap left at the end, so I'm glad I managed it properly.
You guys timed that one out pretty good as well. And you mentioned the other race wins that you guys have gotten this season. I mentioned it as we dragged you up here. Obviously, getting the win in Phoenix, you get the win at Kansas, and now you get it done on a 2.5-mile racetrack. Seems like you guys have the ability to get it done pretty much anywhere you go. This late in the season, not being in the position that a lot of drivers are in, stressing about what this night and what we're going to see in 2 weeks' time will kind of dictate their fate. You guys are comfortable. Some drivers may use this as an opportunity to experiment, to kind of play with the car. You mentioned the word you kind of had that race car dialed in, trying to kind of get yourself down lock here for the end. To get a race win like this, second to last race of the regular season, the points are going to reset, so you don't get much of the benefit from this, but I think it makes a big statement as well that you guys can come out here and get this kind of performance. Headed into tonight, what did you expect? What has been the objective these last few weeks once you kind of got the idea that you're safe into the top 8?
Well, there's a bit of game theory going on here. What do I do in a race? Do I try to just get as many points as I can and play it safe? Or do I go for these wins and, like you said, make a statement? And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure we get 3 bonus points going into the chase for each win that we have. So I'm really going for those wins. It's basically a win or come out of here with a decent top 10. I don't think second matters to me in the slightest. So yeah, game plan, try to win, but play it safe.
Good news for you, second place was over 10 seconds back, so not a concern at the end of this one. We do have one more race until we give you the bonus points, and we really get down to business, and we fight for this 2018 championship. It was Bristol. It is now Texas Motor Speedway in 2 weeks' time. How do you go into that race, and what are we really going to see out of the 24 machine to close off the regular season out in the Lone Star State?
Well, my trip to real-life Bristol is not canceled, so I'm going to be spending about a week before that race in Tennessee. So I probably won't be able to do too much practice for that race, but Texas is the type of track that we're really strong on. Our setups are really good for those tracks, and I really like driving that track too. So even though I don't have as much preparation time as I would like to have, I think I'll do pretty well, and I think the rest of my team will do great as well.
Got an off week to enjoy that, and it sounds like you'll be having some fun. Keegan, we'll let your vacation kick off a little bit early. We'll set you free. Before we do, though, as always, the sponsors, the folks behind the scenes, who makes it happen for you and the team?
Well, first I want to say congratulations to Chris Shearburn on the great run. You'll talk to him later. He finished 5th, I believe. That's awesome for him. He needs those points. And Ryan came out of here with a decent run, too. And then thanks to Andrew and Bill and Eric for the help this week as well. And I got a virtual racing school. I'm sure you get a picture of my car out there. Doing lots of data packs. We're adding new stuff every season, it seems, and we're expanding really quickly. And I'm working on a pretty big project right now to release a lot of setup tutorial videos for VRS subscribers too. And yeah, thank you guys for the broadcast and iRacing and Peak.
The 24 machine got plenty of TV time tonight, Keegan. We appreciate your time. Congratulations. Now a 3-time winner. Enjoy your trip out to Bristol, but we will catch you at Texas the next time out. Hopefully we'll chat. Best of luck there as well.
Thanks so much, Evan. I hope to talk to you again soon.
Race winner tonight, and it wasn't even close. Keegan Leahy, by 10.5 seconds, takes the win tonight from the Pocono Raceway. Christian Challenger comes home at a second position. He only climbed up there at the very end of this one after starting on a pole, and Tim Terry is trackside with him.
Christian Challenger, great run this evening, coming home in position number 2. Started on the pole position, but lots of green flag racing, lots of strategy at the end of that one. You had to pull your way up to position number 2. Talk about that pit strategy tonight.
I mean, really, I can't take no credit for that at all. I can't really take any credit for the car at all. I mean, that was all put together by my guys, especially Dallas and Justin Bolton. They worked on a bunch this week. I really was kind of down before the race. If anybody had told me I would have qualified pole, finished P2, I would have just said they were crazy. There was no way that was going to happen. So I just trusted their judgment. Bolton told me when to pit. I don't even know when I pitted. I just knew that we came out behind guys and we had much fresher tires, and just a case of getting past them. Pretty sure I wasn't going to be able to catch Keegan because, I mean, he passed me the first run and then, like, he just took off. So that's just, like, you see that and it's like, okay, whatever. But we knew that we were probably going to beat everybody else. And, yeah, having the tire advantage made it a lot easier for me to pass. And I would say it was a good strategy. It worked out for us.
You've seen some of these races play out here at Pocono. Did you anticipate an 80-plus run or lap run to the end of this race caution-free?
I anticipated the 80-lap run, yeah. And then I anticipated that there was going to be a yellow that was going to give us a 2-lap restart, and that I was going to get wrecked coming out of 1, because that literally happens every single time I race Pocono. It happened last year as well when I was running P6 coming out of 1, and then I got completely destroyed on the back, so I was really just watching the counter, hoping that we got to 95, and once we got to 95 and I was in P2, it was kind of just, yeah, realized that it was going to actually play out for once, so that's pretty cool. We don't really have any luck over here whatsoever, so for it to actually work out for us once, that's pretty awesome.
So set up Texas for us in 2 weeks. Not only the racetrack, but without the drop factored in, you are 6 points back from Matt Busa. What is your thought going in, and how big is that playoff picture looming in your mind?
Yeah, I was actually just talking to him a couple of minutes ago. He says that I'm 1 behind him for 8th place with the drop factored in. So it'd be pretty close. I like that it got changed from Bristol to Texas. We've been somewhat decent on mile and a half. I mean, we haven't been the best car. I mean, Keegan and Loser have been the best car by miles. I mean, you saw it tonight, pulled 10 seconds on everybody, so they'll probably win the race. I don't really care about that. I'll just be focused on finishing behind them and ahead of everybody else.
Beautiful looking race car. Who do you got on the side of the race car, and who helps you get to the racetrack every week?
I got to thank Stephen Burbage from Sucks Out Racing and Nightfox Designs for that. It's a really cool car. It's something that really took us quite a while to put together for, it was meant for just the one-off for Sonoma, actually, but we liked it so much we just decided we'd keep running it. Got to thank Herstenveld for sponsoring us again this year. All the guys at Dynamic Auto Sports, and pretty much the team now, because that's basically what we're running with. So, well, a big shout out to all those guys, because they really what made it happen tonight. I just held the steering wheel.
Well, there you go, Christian Chalner. Great run here this evening to second place, and it's going to set up a dash to try to get himself into the playoff picture coming up in 2 weeks' time at the Texas Motor Speedway. I believe Evan has caught up with Ray Alfala, who had a great run to the end to finish third.
A fantastic run at the end of this one for the driver of the number 2 machine. It's a podium for Ray Alfala, trackside with him now. Ray, congratulations. Another solid result for you, much like the Keegan Leahy, who we just spoke with, in a position coming into tonight where there's not a lot of sweat on your forehead. There's a lot of drivers fighting for that top 8 spot to get into the playoffs, and smooth sailing for you guys. So you came into tonight with no pressure. You still walk away with a third place result, and I think overall a good step forward for you guys as we close out the regular season.
Yeah, congrats to Keegan. I think we got at least 2 of the virtual racing school cars now locked into the playoffs. I think Bobby had some issues, so I don't think he's mathematically in. I haven't checked though, but yeah, that's probably the most off pace I've ever been with a third place finish ever. You know, Keegan and Luza as well, but he had other issues. They pretty much had the number on everybody, but. Yeah, you know, I thought we could battle for a top 5, and then we kind of jumped a few drivers on pit road, and they, you know, I short pitted them, came out ahead of them as normal, and then they couldn't really come back to me. So, you know, we made some pit road adjustments, but I'm not sure if that helped or not or what. But you know, it's cool to get another top 5.
You think the fact that this race goes 89 laps to the end made it feel like you guys maybe were off pace a little bit more? You look at the fact that somebody like Orion Luz is able to drive through the pack, and he ends up making a mistake. So I say it's only a P10. It's still impressive for somebody who drives from the back, but you know, at one point he had gotten into the number 2 spot. Or the fact that you're up there running in the number 2 spot, somebody like a Keegan Leahy, he's 10.5 seconds back. You feel like maybe if this race had a little bit more of that stop and start, you get to play with the race car a little bit more, that it wouldn't have quite felt like that, because in the grand scheme of things, the 2 machine a lot faster than a lot of the other cars out there.
Yeah, obviously, you know, the long green run makes it, you know, makes everything seem more exaggerated. But I think even if we had short runs, we really didn't have anything for them. You know, maybe if we could have come out ahead of them, you know, like under yellow and a yellow flag pit stop, then yeah, you could have had stuff happen on restarts and things like that. But yeah, we were just really far off. We don't really have another track that's like this one, mostly because we're shifting. So even though Indianapolis is similar as far as track geometry and whatnot, we're not shifting there. So I can't really say that this track really has anything to do with the others. But you know, I'm sure whatever they have in their car transfers from track to track, because they've been dominant all year. So we'll see if we can get it figured out here, and you know, one more race to kind of get ready for the playoffs, and then, you know, right into Darlington for the start.
The location of that next race obviously changing to Texas, so those 1.5 mile racetracks play a lot bigger of a factor into things as we get later on in the season. Of course, Atlanta is going to be a critical one. Homestead kind of an outlier the last race. Do you feel like maybe you go into Texas next week and you guys have a really good race car that'll make you feel a lot better headed into the end? How much do you weigh on that race in 2 weeks' time to kind of get yourself dialed in?
Well, we still have one more build left, one more physics update, which could include a whole new version of the tire model. So we don't really know, you know, if there's no significant changes, then yeah, whoever runs strong at Texas probably will run strong the rest of the, you know, the important races, especially Homestead. So, but if there is a big change in the tire, or even like the front end geometry to where the setups are completely scrapped and we have to start all over, then it'll kind of reset everyone, and then we'll go to work again and see who can find the advantage the quickest.
We always look forward to see if that's going to shake things up late, but you guys have made it through now 12 weeks, one more to go, and things will get serious as you have an opportunity to fight for yet another title. We'll let you enjoy the off week, because once we come back, it's Texas, and then immediately right into the start of the playoffs the week following that at Darlington Ray. As always, sponsors and everybody else who powers the 2-car every week.
Yeah, go to virtualracingschool.com. Obviously, Keegan dominated. You saw his car out there, and we finished in the top 3. A lot of coaching on there and a lot of data of really top drivers in the service on iRacing that you can use to learn how to improve your driving. And thanks to everybody on Slip Angle Motorsports, Turkey and Liam for their help on the box, and RaceSpot for the really good broadcast. So we'll see you guys in 2 weeks, Texas.
We appreciate the time, Ray. Congratulations, and best of luck headed into Texas. If you don't get an opportunity to chat with you there, good luck. We'll catch you in the playoffs.
Thanks. See you guys.
It is your third-place finisher tonight from the Pocono Raceway. Tucking in behind him, Jimmy Mullis had a good pickup towards the end of this one, Tim. He comes home at a number 4 spot. You're with the drive of the 27.
And follows up that win at Loudon with another top 5 finish here at the Pocono Raceway. Jimmy, you needed, what, 2 more laps, 3 more laps to get to Ray?
Yeah, it was probably that. We thought we were going to catch him, and then, we just started evening out. Those last, 10 or 12 laps, so I kind of backed my pace down, just try to, not make any mistakes, try to be smooth and close out with a good finish. And then I think it was 4 to go, I started to catch him a little bit again. So, it just shows how good Ray is. He didn't make any mistakes. He was just, smooth and was able to hold on to third. And, he was decent all night, so he deserved it. It was nice to have green flag runs tonight, and I feel like we finished right around where we should have.
Following that win at Loudon, how important was it to back up that win with a good finish here?
It's super important to try and run good every week. I felt like lockdowns brought really, really good race cars every single week. We just haven't really had that great of luck, and this was kind of like Auto Club. Finished 4th there. Just kind of ran around the top 5 and ended up finishing there because we didn't get any yellows, because these past couple races we just get yellows after yellow at the end of the race, and that screwed me over a lot. But luckily tonight we went green all the way, so it was nice.
Now, looking at the points picture, it's going to be a long road to hoe to get up to where you need to be to lock yourself into the playoffs. Before that drop, it's 30 points between yourself and Busa. Do you throw the towel in now, or do you go for that win and hope the points fall the way they are? What is your outlook coming up at Texas?
There's a very, very slim chance, so obviously going to try, but I'm not really too worried about it. I've kind of accepted the fact that it's probably not going to happen, with one race, and it's 24 points with the drop, so, we'll just go to Texas and run as good as we can, and if something crazy happens and we somehow make it, then awesome. But I think these past 2 races have really showed my capabilities and Lockdown's capabilities, so we'll just take that and I guess move on to next year.
You've got a lot of great marketing partners with the Chaos Crew and a team that helps you get to the racetrack each week. Who makes it happen for you?
Yeah, of course. Biggest one on there is Racing Virginia, and they always have supported me, at least throughout this season. Richmond Raceway, Sim Seats, looking for Larry, the Chaos Crew, just everyone that's a part of it, as well as Lockdown Racing, and the 2 guys that help me every week, Matt Bontempi and Jordan Churchill. They do a great job. Matt made some great adjustments there at the end and got me driving pretty good for the end of the run, and I feel like that was why I was catching Ray. But and also Jordan, he keeps me calm whenever situations go crazy. But as always, like I said, thanks to them and my teammates at Lockdown, and thanks to you guys for the broadcast.
Another great run for Jimmy Mullis. Comes home in position number 4, and we're going to slide down the list here and see if we can't catch up with Chris Shearer, who finished in position number 5. And Chris, I said about halfway through this race, it was almost like you were on a yo-yo. You'd be up near the front of the field and fall back a little bit, then back up to the front. Started 12th, finished in 5th. You have to be happy with the finish.
Oh yeah, for sure, especially considering the last several races haven't gone my way for sure. Yeah, the short run sprint was pretty decent, but I was taking it easy and probably a little bit less aggressive than most guys around me, and it cost me a couple of positions there on that restart, but thankfully we got a long run and I was able to get them back.
Talked about the short run speed. We've seen a lot of these Pocono races go with short runs. Did you anticipate this one to go 80-plus laps to the end?
No, I would have thought if anything we might have started the race 80 laps and then have a yellow middle to late of the race and start getting into short runs. I definitely kind of had short run in mind with the setup. Turned out, like I said, it was pretty decent on a short run, but it was definitely really good on a long run, so the race definitely played out in our favor.
You've had an up-and-down season, 3rd top 5 of the year. It looks like at this point, mathematically, you have an opportunity to get up into that playoff picture, but realistically, it's going to be a long shot. What are you anticipating going into the Texas Motor Speedway? Can we get this car up here and vie for a win?
I think with the drop, I'm eliminated mathematically, but even still, I think it'd be definitely a long shot anyway. I've been taking these races one at a time, just hoping to improve and start, getting top 5s on a regular basis. And I've had the speed to do it for about a month or so now. I just haven't had the luck to go with it. I kind of make life hard for myself with my miscues in pit road and screwing up qualifying every week. Today wasn't the best qualifying run, but it wasn't bad, and just kind of, didn't really make any headway at the beginning of the runs, but was able to get some long runs to start picking them off one at a time.
You got a lot of great marketing partners on the car, including Sim Marketing Solutions. Who else is on this race car, and who helps you get to the racetrack every week?
Peak Antifreeze, got to thank them for sponsoring the series. Sim Marketing Solutions, JD Graphics. I got to thank everybody at Phenom Race Team, especially Keegan, for the hours that he puts into I think it's hours that he puts into the setups. With the time he spends with VRS, I don't really know if he spends as much time on the setups as he wants to, but he still comes up with some pretty good stuff. Just basically, thank you guys for putting on, for broadcasting the race.
And there we go, Chris Shearburn coming home with position number 5. Another great run for this number 36 team. And man, oh man, let's talk about this point battle going in to what will be the final race at the Texas Motor Speedway. You see the standings on your screen. Those top 3 look pretty safe. And even now, Ryan Luza, Nick Shelton, Michael Conti, Nick Ottinger, and Matt Busa, they have a little bit of a cushion on Chalner and Novak. But Evan, we're going to factor in a drop race here, too. The worst race for all those drivers that have completed all 12 races so far will be 13. When we complete that Texas Motor Speedway race, they'll be able to drop their worst finish and count their best 12 towards what will be the playoff contention. And we're going to see some drivers that are going to put on a show in the playoffs. We might even see a surprise or two. It wouldn't surprise me to see Novak get up on the wheel at a track like Texas and possibly bump somebody that might have a wreck or bad luck at that race. It's going to be exciting. Pocono was surprising, 80 laps plus to the end, green flag. I don't know what Texas is going to have in store, but it's going to be hard to top what we saw here tonight.
And you could even have a situation like we saw with Logan Clampett tonight. You are having a good race. The car in front of you crashes. There's no do-over. There's one race to figure it out. Those are the 8 names that are in. Those are the drivers trying to claw out of the hole. They have had 12 races to get to where they sit now, and there is only going to be one more as we close out the regular season in 2 weeks' time. Before we get to that, though, round number 12 falls into our rear-view mirror. And we want to thank all of the people behind the scenes who make these broadcasts on Tuesday nights possible. For Isfed Ballo, his team for the camera angles, Simon Grossman, Kevin Papey on the broadcast CG, Andy Werder on the graphics, for Will Vincent, Hugo Louise, Drew Adamson, Cisco Scarabuzza, everybody else at RaceSpot and iRacing, and of course, for your broadcast team tonight. For myself, Evan Pasoko, and for Tim Terry, I want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate Keegan Leahy. He is now a 3-time winner on 2018. Only other driver to do so Ryan Luza. Both of those drivers look to take their talents into the championship, which starts in a couple of weeks' time, but we return and get back into the action in 2 weeks' time on Tuesday, August 21st from the Texas Motor Speedway. That race and every race of the 2018 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series can be found right here on RaceSpot TV and on the iRacing eSports Network. Until next time, good night from Pocono. We close it out in 2 weeks' time. We'll see you then.